Chapter 2140. Third Heaven, Zeon Continent, Frozen Valley. Rather than calling it a valley, it would be better to call it a huge basin. It was surrounded by huge mountains that pierced through the clouds, so the low-lying area in the middle looked like a valley. The ground of the valley and the surrounding mountains were all covered with ice. This was a world of ice. The temperature here was so cold that it was bone-chilling. There were many people here walking in and out of the caves in the mountains. Many chariots were flying around in the sky. On the chariots were armored warriors with spears in their hands. Buzzing in an open space in the valley, an altar lit up. After a while, 3 people showed up. As soon as they showed up, they shivered. A white-haired young man was better. The other 2 shivered out of instinct, feeling cold. Is this the third heaven? How come it is so cold? Lin shrank his neck. At his realm, he was immune to cold and heat. How come he was shivering as soon as he arrived? So many people? So many warriors of the third tribulation. Zhan said in a low voice. His eyes were filled with excitement. It was cold here, but he could stand it. Looking at the people walking around and the warriors flying in the sky, he was excited. Luli said nothing. As soon as he was teleported here, he had been observing the situation. The valley was large, with a radius of at least tens of thousands of miles. There were many people as well. Luli could see thousands of people and hundreds of warriors in the sky. Of course, some were not purebred. For example, there were beastmen with human bodies and bare heads. There were some strange people with eyes and wings on their backs. Luli also saw people who were as thin as toothpicks and whose hands and feet were thicker than their bodies. There were few strange people. Most of them were normal human beings with strong chi and energy. There were warriors of the third tribulation everywhere, and only dozens at the peak of the second tribulation. The warriors above were all warriors of the third tribulation. Some warriors who seemed to be commanders were as strong as the axe demon. Whoosh! A chariot flew down. The 10 warriors on the chariot landed next to Lu Li and the other 2. Zhan and Lin were nervous, but Luli was not. He cupped his fists and saluted. Greetings, lords. Those warriors were cold, but they had no killing intent. They didn't seem to care about Lu Li and Lin. This meant that there were many people teleporting up from the lower planes, and they were used to it. A purple-haired, middle-aged martial artist glanced at the 3 and said, Which realm are you from? Do you have a Layer 3 identity token? Which realm? Luli was confused. He thought about it and explained, We were teleported here from the second heaven. We don't have a token. The purple-haired, middle-aged man frowned and said, There are thousands of realms in the second heaven. Don't you know what your realm is called? A few thousand. Luli, Zhan, and Lin looked at each other in surprise. The 3 of them did not know what universe they had come to. All right. Seeing the doubt in the eyes of the 3, the purple-haired, middle-aged man was too lazy to ask. He took out 3 tokens and said, These are your identity tokens of the ice-sealed valley. After serving in a valley for 100 years or digging out 10,000 ice heart crystals, you can leave. Remember, you're not allowed to fight in the valley. If there are any disputes, go to the dueling arena to settle it. Whoever dares to fight in the valley will be killed without mercy. Serving? Luli frowned. When he came to the divinity from the 9 universes, he also did hard labor. He didn't know that he had to serve in the third heaven as well. He glanced over the altars nearby and wondered, did some super powerful warrior change the rules on purpose when they were teleported here? Many people from a second heaven would be teleported here when they came to the third heaven. The good thing was that they could get free labor. They had just arrived at the third heaven and knew nothing. They didn't know anything and didn't dare to say anything. Luli winked at the other 2, and the 3 accepted the order at the same time. The purple-haired, middle-aged man nodded with satisfaction. He waved his hand and asked a warrior to take the 3 to settle down. He also told them about the situation in the ice-sealed valley. The 3 were taken to a small cave, and the warrior told them about the situation along the way. Luli learned that the ice-sealed valley was the territory of a nearby lord, Sun Xion. To serve here, one had a hand in 1 piece of ice heart crystal every month, or else their service would be prolonged. If they could hand in 10,000 pieces of ice heart crystal, they could leave immediately. The warrior also showed Lu Li and the others the ice heart crystal. As soon as the crystal came out, the temperature dropped. Lu Li and the others could see that the space around the crystal seemed to be frozen. There are many mines in the mountains around here. The warrior explained indifferently. You can go into the mines by yourself. No matter what you do, as long as you can dig out ice heart crystals. Look at the biggest castle. You have to go there every month to hand in ice heart crystals. The warrior waved his hand and was about to leave when Qin Zhan stopped him with a smile. A ring appeared in his hand, and Qin Zhan said in a low voice, "My lord, this is a small token of my appreciation." The warrior's cold face relaxed a bit. He checked with psychic power and threw the ring on the ground. He snorted and said, "Origin stones from the lower realms are all rubbish. Nobody would want them even if they were thrown on the ground in the third heaven." Qin Zhan gave out 10 million pieces of divine origin gold, but the warrior just threw it on the ground. So, divine origin gold from the second heaven was useless in the third heaven. Lily thought of something. He took out a piece of divine origin gold and handed it over. "My lord, can you see if this is still useful?" The warrior opened the box quietly, and then it disappeared in his hand. He nodded and said, "Not bad. There are some good things in your universe." Buzzing, Lu Li took out a portrait and said to the warrior, "My lord, we have a senior who came here a few years earlier than us. His nickname is Old Azura. Have you ever seen him?" "That man." The warrior took a few glances, thought about it, and nodded. "I think there is such a man. He was at the fourth tribulation realm. He only stayed in the Ice Valley for a month before he left." "That fast?" Lu Li and the other two looked at each other in shock. He could get 10,000 ice heart crystals in a month. Seeing that the warrior was about to leave again, Lu Li made up his mind and took out another piece of divine origin gold and asked, "My lord, how come my senior could leave so fast? Is there a shortcut?" Lu Li didn't want to stay here for more than 100 years. If Old Azura could leave in a month, they could find a shortcut as well. They were going to the Dragon Rebel Valley, which meant they had to cross a continent and an ocean. If they were stuck here for more than 100 years, it would take them tens of thousands of years to get to the Dragon Rebel Valley. "You want to get out quickly?" The warrior grinned and said, "It is easy to say and difficult at the same time. The reason why that senior of yours left so quickly was because he went to the dueling arena and made a bet with someone else, using the ice heart crystal as a wager. He won 5 fights in a row and earned 10,000 ice heart crystals. At first, he suppressed his abilities to the peak of the third tribulation realm. Many people were fooled. Gamble. Lu Li, Ganlin, and Qin Zhan's eyes glowed. Lu Li was the most suitable candidate for gambles. Chapter 2141. Bang, bang, bang. Thousands of miles below the Ice Valley, from a mine, came some muffled noises. 3 people were attacking a rock. They were strong, but the rock was so hard that they had been attacking for the time for 1 incense stick to burn, and yet the rock was not cracked. Boom! After the time for half an incense stick to burn, the rock was cracked. Inside was a white crystal, which was surrounded by cold air. The space around the crystal was about to be frozen. Whoosh! A hand reached out. As soon as the hand came close to the white crystal, it was frozen. But the crystal was put into the interspatial ring. The 5th one. Lu Li sighed. The ice on his hand melted after he used his cultivation method. It had been 6 days in the mine, and they had only found 5 ice heart crystals. Lu Li had asked Blood Fairy to search around. If they had to rely on psychic power, it would be a miracle if they could find 1 ice heart crystal in 6 days. Ice heart crystals were easy to find, but it was difficult to dig them out. The rock outside the ice heart crystal was so hard that it would take a long time to crack it open. The rock must be as hard as a piece of artifact. Lu Li had the relic. If he used the relic, the rock could be cracked. But could the relic be used? The relic was too powerful. Once it was used, the entire valley would know. Lu Li would suffer a miserable death. They had been here for 6 days, and they met some people in the mine. The 3 of them wanted to get some information. However, the people here paid no attention to them. When they came closer, they would show hostility. If the three of them did anything, they might resort to violence. They could not do anything in a valley, but in the mine, they could. They saw many skeletons in the mine. The three of them did not dare to go deeper in the mine for fear that someone might lay a hand on them. The mine extended in all directions, and the rock was as hard as iron. Even if there was a fight underground, no one would know. Nobody would be able to find out if they killed someone and wandered around underground. Luli had exchanged 2 pieces of elixirs for 2 pieces of information. He did not have enough elixirs to ask the warriors for more information. Therefore, the three of them knew nothing about the third plane. They had to go down to the mine to dig out some ice heart crystals. Old Shura stayed there for a month before leaving. The soldier said that he went to gamble and won 10,000 ice heart crystals. Luli and the other 2 were ready to take this route as well. Since they were going to make a bet, they would need some capital, right? Without the ice heart crystal, how would others bet with you? Let's continue digging. We have to get at least a few dozen ice heart crystals. Luli waved his hand. Blood Fairy sensed an ice heart crystal up ahead. Luli and the other 2 hurried over. They sensed it and found that the ice heart crystal was hidden deep inside. To dig it out, they would have to break the stones more than 100 feet deep, and it would take them an hour. Let's dig. Luli didn't dare to take out the relic iron or the seal of the Dust King. He didn't dare to use the cauldron of 1,000 transformations that he got from Yin Kaiwe. He had to rely on his fists. Ganlin and Qin Zhan also didn't dare to use their secret treasures. They hadn't figured out anything in the third heavenly layer yet. If they revealed their treasures, it would be very easy for others to covet them. After an hour, the 3 of them finally cracked open the stone for more than 100 feet. An ice heart crystal appeared in the crack. Qin Zhan and Ganlin were not strong enough, so they had to rely on Lu Li to get it. Whoosh! Right at that moment, the air suddenly trembled. Then, a black whip came out and grabbed the ice heart crystal in the crack, ready to leave. What? Lu Li and the other 2 were worried. They had worked so hard to dig out the ice heart crystal. Someone dared to take it from them? Lu Li had told himself to keep a low profile in the third heavenly layer. That being said, he was not so cowardly that he would put up with others when they bullied him. Lu Li reached out with one hand and grabbed the black whip. He exerted his strength. The space trembled as a dark figure snuck out. Hiss, hiss, it was an old man. His chi and energy were faintly discernible. Lu Li could not tell his realm. He was skinny and only skin and bones. His eyes were filled with viciousness that could make people shudder. He threw Lu Li a few glances and said with a strange smile, "Kid, why are you grabbing my whip? Do you want to fight?" Fighting is forbidden in the Ice Valley. Both Qin Zhan and Ganlin were enraged by the old man's accusation, but they knew they could not act rashly. They had to listen to Lu Li. This time, both Patriarch Qin and the Axe Demon had told them to follow Lu Li at the third heavenly layer and listen to him. Lu Li didn't let go of the whip. He said with a light smile, "Sir, we have worked so hard to dig out an ice heart crystal. It is not right of you to just take it from us." "What do you mean by taking?" The black-robed old man sneered and said, "I just arrived nearby and saw an ice heart crystal in the crevice. This divine item belongs to the fated. Who can you blame for being a step slower than me?" "Sir, are you sure you want to pester me endlessly?" Lu Li didn't waste time with him. He said with killing intent in his eyes, "I have 5 more ice heart crystals in my interspatial ring. Sir, if you think you have the ability, you can take them all." "Nice." A glint of viciousness flashed in the old man's eyes. He disappeared in a gust of wind. That whip twisted and moved toward Lu Li like a poisonous snake. "Lu Li!" Ganlin and Qin Zhan shouted nervously. They took out their treasures and were ready to take action. Lu Li waved his hand and then smashed at the space in front of him with his fist. Boom! A man appeared in the void. His fist bumped into Lu Li's. Lu Li trembled, but the old man was smashed away. There was blood coming out from the corner of his mouth. Hiss, hiss, the old man crawled up. He reached out his hand, and the whip that was about to wrap around Lu Li flew back. The old man sneered and said, "My young friend, you are quite powerful. I have misjudged you. Sorry for offending you. Goodbye." "Did I say you can go?" Lu Li showed no mercy. A saber appeared in his hand. It was not the seven-star sword, but the one transformed from the cauldron of 1,000 transformations. He stared at the old man and said, "If you dare to move, I will decapitate you. Do you believe me?" "No need, no need." The old man put on a flattering smile. He walked over in strides, stood dozens of feet in front of Lu Li, and said, "Young master, why are you so hot-tempered? Anger harms the liver. Just now, this old man was just joking with you. I have an ice heart crystal here. How about this old man apologizes to you?" Qin Zhan and Gan Lin glanced at each other. Both of them were somewhat speechless. Wasn't this old man's face changing too fast? He was a typical villain that bullied the weak and feared the strong. Lu Li remained calm. He even activated the trace of Tao to be on guard. Making sure that the old man was not going to do anything, Lu Li said coldly, "Keep your icy heart crystal. I have something to ask you. Answer me honestly, and I will let bygones be bygones." "Sure, sure." The old man smiled and said with a face full of servility, "What do you want to ask, young master? There's no harm in asking. This old man will tell you everything I know." "Okay." Chapter 2142. The old man's name was Old Third. He had lived in the frozen valley for many years, tens of thousands of years. It was not that he couldn't leave the frozen valley, but he liked living here because he could get ice heart crystals. The ice heart crystal was a very good material for artifact refining. The stones around the ice heart crystal were very hard, so one could imagine how hard the ice heart crystal was. One ice heart crystal could be sold for 100 divine stones. Divine stones were the common currency of the third heaven. Divine stones could be consumed directly to replenish divine energy. Divine stones could be used to buy all kinds of treasures, divine pellets, books, and weapons. As long as you had enough divine stones, you could even buy emperor weapons. As for how to sell the ice heart crystal, Old Third didn't say, and Lu Li didn't ask. Wherever there was light, there would be darkness. The Ice Heart Valley was large and had existed for many years. Naturally, there would be corruption. In order to sneak the Ice Heart crystal out, Old Third Heaven had colluded with some warriors and even commanders. The Frozen Valley was the territory of Sun Tu, a lord of the Xi'an continent. Lord of the Third Heaven was a powerful figure. There were 3 emperors at the Xi'an continent, and each of them had tens of thousands of lords under their command. In other words, the lords were only second to the emperors. 3 emperors? Lu Li didn't know that there were so many emperors at the Third Heaven. He had thought that there were only a few emperors at the Third Heaven. He didn't know that even the smallest continent had 3 emperors. Lu Li asked in surprise, "How many emperors at the Third Heaven are there?" "About 40 or 50, Old Third said. Then he added, "There are many ancient families and races at the Third Heaven. Their holy masters and patriarchs are no weaker than emperors. So, there should be 200 or 300 emperors." 200 or 300? Lu Li gasped. They didn't know that there were so many emperors at the Third Heaven. However, Lu Li and the others had a vague idea about emperors. Lu Li thought about it and asked, "What is the emperor realm? How many tribulations?" "You can't say how many tribulations." Old Gui explained, "There are too many people with special abilities in the Third Heaven. Many special races cultivate strange techniques, and some powerhouses don't go through the heavenly tribulations at all, so the number of tribulations is not accurate. Let's put it this way. The overall combat strength of an overlord should be comparable to a 7th Tribulation Realm expert, while a lord is comparable to a 6th Tribulation Realm expert." 7th Tribulation. Lu Li and the other 2 were dumbfounded. Originally, they thought that warriors of the Third Heaven were only a little stronger than warriors of the Second Heaven. They didn't expect the gap to be so wide. A 4th Tribulation Master was already a high mountain for them, but they didn't expect that there would be a 7th Tribulation Master in the Third Heaven. There were still hundreds of them. A 4th Tribulation expert was already ridiculously strong. So how strong would a 7th Tribulation be? It was simply unimaginable. Lu Li and the other 2 said nothing for a while. Gan Lin asked in a low voice, "Are there any above the Emperor realm?" The strongest in the third heaven is the great emperor? Yes, Elder Gay said with certainty. Above the great emperor is the saint emperor. But there are no more saint emperors in the third heaven. The last one passed away 60,000 years ago. The emperor realm is the strongest, but there's a gap between them. Currently, there are 3 saint emperors recognized as the strongest in the third heaven: Reincarnation Emperor, Freedom Emperor, and Candle Heaven Emperor. Lu Li and the other 2 memorized the names. Qin Zhan asked, "What about the heavens above? I thought there are 7 heavens. Are there any saint emperors in the heavens above?" The heavens above all collapsed. Elder Gue rolled his eyes. Everyone in the third heaven knew about this. He explained to the 3 patiently. Originally, there weren't so many powerful warriors in the third heaven. More than 1,000,000 years ago, the heavens above all collapsed. Many powerful families and families swarmed into the third heaven. There were so many powerful warriors in the third heaven. Saint Emperors. Luli was secretly excited. He had a fragment of a Saint Emperor's divine weapon in his hand. It was a fragment of the most powerful weapon in the world. If Saint Emperors are the most powerful in the world, how come their weapons are broken? Luli could not figure it out. Saint Emperors were so powerful. Who could kill them? If they died of natural causes, then how could their weapons be broken? We want to go to the flying fire continent. Do you know any shortcuts? Luli asked the most critical question. There were too many warriors of the third heaven. Their abilities were not enough. They had to find a way to get to the flying fire continent as soon as possible and finish their business. Flying fire continent. Elder Gue was surprised. Then he put on a bitter smile and said, "Young masters, don't you think you are overthinking? Without a powerful warrior to take you there, you will never be able to get to the flying fire continent." Are you kidding me? Qin Zhan pulled a long face. No matter how far the flying fire continent was, they could fly there in tens of thousands of years. Ganlin was not convinced as well. He said coldly, "We can teleport from city to city. Even if it takes time, we can go there for the rest of our lives." Teleportation? Elder Gue grinned and said, "Teleportation is expensive. Let me put it this way. I've been in the ice-ceiling valley for tens of thousands of years, and all my wealth is only enough to teleport half of the Xi'an continent. Most importantly, you will have to cross a sea region called the Silver Flame Sea region. There are no teleportation arrays in this region, let alone the 3 of you. Even a lord would die if they tried to cross the Silver Flame Sea region alone." What? The 3 of them were taken aback. Lords were as powerful as warriors of the Sixth Tribulation. How could they not be able to go across the sea? How dangerous was the sea? Even Lu Li was at a loss. Lords could not go across the Silver Flame Sea. Would they never be able to go to the flying fire continent? If so, why would the devil assign him such a task? Then can we open the spatial gate? Lu Li was not ready to give up. He asked, "Can't the super families open the spatial gate? If we ask the super families to open the spatial gate, can we go to the flying fire continent directly?" Qin Zhan and Ganlin were hopeful. According to Elder Gue, it would take them hundreds of thousands of years to reach the flying fire continent safely if they didn't go through other channels. Just the thought of traveling for hundreds of thousands of years was horrifying. Spatial gate? Elder Gue sneered and said, "Even if a powerful warrior can open the spatial gate, he can only go across half of the Xi'an continent. Do you think that powerful warrior will go all the way with you? Opening the spatial gate requires many top-level materials. Do you think you can afford it? Also, if you want to open the spatial gate all the way, you will have to go across the Silver Flame Sea. Even if you ask a lord to open the spatial gate, it will be difficult to go across the Silver Flame Sea. Unless what?" Seeing that Elder Gue didn't want to continue, Qin Zhan was anxious. He said, "Old man, don't hesitate. Be frank. Unless you can ask an emperor." Chapter 2143. Luli had acquired a lot of information from Patriarch Gue and some secrets of the Frozen Valley. It was not difficult to leave the Frozen Valley. However, many people didn't want to go out. Instead, they wanted to stay. Ice heart crystals were valuable. It was dangerous in the third heaven. One careless move could cost one's life. Why would they risk their lives when they could earn divine stones safely in the frozen valley? There were many opportunities to earn ice heart crystals in the frozen valley. Gambling was the best way. However, gambling was also risky. If one was not careful, he would lose all his fortune. Ice heart crystals could be traded. For example, Lu could trade the 1,000 transformations cauldron for tens of thousands of ice heart crystals. After all, the 1,000 transformations cauldron was a powerful artifact. But Lu wouldn't trade it. Many of the people below would choose the path of gambling. However, they would often lose their pants and lose all their treasures. There were even people who died on the dueling field, losing their lives. Old Azura was an exception. At first, Old Azura suppressed his battle prowess to the third tribulation realm. He took out one of his treasures and exchanged it for 500 ice heart crystals. Then, he gambled and won several matches in a row. He then left Frozen Valley with more than 10,000 ice heart crystals. Let's keep digging. It was pointless to gamble with so little capital. Even if the odds were 10 times, it would only be 50 ice heart crystals. If they went to fight, they would be noticed. By then, it would be harder to win and the odds would be lower. The three of them kept on digging. They were not in a hurry. They could familiarize themselves with the third heaven by staying in the Frozen Valley for a month or two. Patriarch Gui's words made the three of them feel heavy. Asking for help from an emperor? Not even Unrivaled was qualified to ask for help from an emperor, let alone the three of them, Old Azura, or even Unrivaled. Well, let's find Old Azura first. If we can't find him, we will go to the Broken Sword Mountain to find Qingxi and Unrivaled. If they can't do anything, it will be difficult. Lu murmured to himself and frowned. The Broken Sword Mountain was at the chilly winter continent. Even though the chilly winter continent was next to the Xi'an continent, it was on another continent. If he went to the chilly winter continent, he would have to take a long detour. If Qingxi and Unrivaled couldn't do anything, his trip would be in vain. Something's wrong. Since the clan was on the Broken Sword Mountain and the chilly winter continent, she should have to go through the purple sun continent to get to the second heaven, right? Since Unrivaled could go to the second heaven at will, she must have some tricks up her sleeve. If he went to her and Qingxi, he might be able to find a way. It's decided then. As soon as Lu and the two of them came in, they were attracted by a shield in the middle of the battleground. The shield was not large, only with a radius of 2,000 feet. At the moment, two people were fighting inside. Both of them were heaven gods after 3 trials. Their eyes were bloodshot and they were fighting desperately. Do the three of you want to bet? A person quietly came up and said with a smile, "The red-haired guy wins. The payout is 1. 2, the black-haired guy wins 2-1. The battle is not over yet, so you won't have a chance to place a bet later." Huh? Lin and Qin Zhan glanced at each other. Both of them were slightly startled. The red-haired man was obviously about to lose. Wasn't this clearly gifting the ice heart crystal to them? Anyone would bet on the black-haired man. There's no rush. Let's take a look first. Lu waved his hand. The man nodded and said, "Then, if you want to place a bet later, you can find me at any time. Everyone at the arena knows about this. Our banker will pay for it." Old Kui said that there was a banker in the dueling field, and this person had a relationship with a big shot in the Icebound Valley. Otherwise, he would not be qualified to be the banker here. After that man left, Lu glanced over the field and whispered to them with a smile, "How about we have a bet?" The black-haired man was going to lose. How is that possible? Lin didn't believe it, but Qin Zhan seemed to be thinking about it. The three of them watched for a while. Suddenly, the situation inside the shield was reversed. The black-haired middle-aged man suddenly released a very powerful skill and injured the red-haired old man in one move. Lin was surprised. He didn't understand how the situation could be reversed so quickly. Lu explained with a smile, "Actually, for the two people inside, winning or losing has nothing to do with them. The banker has the final say on who wins and who loses. Whoever the banker wants to win will win. Do you understand?" "I see." Gan Lin was also a very smart man. He soon figured out the key point. Everything was under the control of the banker. Winning or losing was not in the field but outside. So, no matter how we bet, we will lose. Gan Lin's expression changed. They had worked so hard to dig out 30 ice heart crystals. Would they lose all of them at once? Not necessarily. Luli shrugged and said, "Let's observe first. Later, I will fight in person. You all bet on me winning. Also, if I win 1 or 2 rounds, I think the banker will come and talk to me in person." P.S. In the blink of an eye, another year had passed. The spring festival was coming. Old Monster wished everyone a happy spring festival in advance. This year, he had written about 3 million words. It wasn't much, but it wasn't little either. He had been writing for 6 years. Day after day, year after year. He would be lying if he said he wasn't tired. He was physically and mentally exhausted. So, during the spring festival, Old Monster asked for leave from everyone. Of course, he wouldn't stop updating. These days, he would update twice a day. From the 1st to the 10th, he would update once a day. On the 11th, he would update as normal. He would rest and relax for a few days, and while he was at it, he would think about the plot of the third heaven. When Undying started writing, Old Monster had already decided on the third heaven. This was the grandest battlefield. This part of the plot was also Undying's most exciting chapter. Old Monster would work hard to write it well. Chapter 2144. The fight was over. Not long after that, the second round began. Usually, there wouldn't be so many duels. It was one after another. Clearly, someone had arranged this in advance. The 2 people on the stage were both 3 tribulation warriors, one at the middle stage and the other at the latter stage. One of them was a strong, middle-aged man with high spirits. The skinny old man was clearly worried. His lips were pale and his eyes were filled with fear. Before the fight started, the 2 of them talked some nonsense. The strong, middle-aged man scolded the skinny old man, telling the skinny old man to stop fighting if he was afraid of death and to kowtow and apologize. Dozens of people moved quickly and started collecting bets. Luli also saw many people taking out some dark purple stones or ice heart crystals to place their bets. After placing their bets, they would receive a special jade token. More people came to Luli, but Luli still didn't place a bet. After Gan Lin and the others left, Gan Lin approached Luli and said, "This time, we can bet on the skinny old man. This time, it will be another counterattack. Ha! Ha! If the old man wins, the payout will be 2 to 1. Clearly, they're trying to lure us to bet on the strong, middle-aged man." Not necessarily. Gan Lin didn't know much about these despicable things, but Luli did. He said with a smile, "I just told you. Winning or losing is not decided in the arena, but outside the arena. The banker will decide the winner based on the number of bets. For example, if more people bet on the old man, the banker will say the middle-aged man will win. If not, the banker will say the old man will win. The banker will calculate and see which side they can make a profit." Gan Lin's eyes lit up, and he said, "Then how about we see who wins by how much? Then we can bet on the side with less bets." "The problem is," Luli said with a bitter smile, "sometimes the banker will go easy on you. He won't find a pattern for you. Otherwise, how can he win? 9 out of 10 gambles are cheating. The banker has the control. Any gambler who keeps on gambling will lose everything in the end." "That works." Gan Lin and Qin Zhan looked at each other and were somewhat speechless. People like them who didn't understand the tricks inside, if they were to rashly gamble, they reckoned that they would lose everything in the end. In the end, they would go to gamble with others and die miserably. As expected, the winner this time was the strong, middle-aged man. Those who had won were delighted, while those who had lost were cursing and swearing. Soon, the third round began, and more people came to Luli and the other 2 to place their bets. Luli still didn't place a bet, but he stopped the one who placed a bet. Luli cupped his fists and said, "Brother, we would like to gamble. What should we do?" "Duel." The person who placed the bet glanced at Luli with a mocking smile and said coldly, "You don't have to go up. You could die easily." But your two brothers can go up and have some fun. Go to that corner. They are all people who wish to make a bet. Every time you make a bet, you will be given an ice heart crystal. However, it doesn't matter if you die or not. Thanks a lot. Luli glanced over and found that there were dozens of people in the corner. There was also a man in a steward's uniform sitting there. Luli and the other two looked at each other and smiled. So many people were waiting for the fight. This was going to be fun. I'm going. Luli gave all the icy heart crystals to Qin and said, "Later, just watch my eyes and act accordingly. When I tell you to place all your bets, you just do it. If I give this signal, then place all your bets on your opponent." Luli made some gestures. Qin nodded slightly, but he was a bit worried and asked, "Bet on my opponent to win? Will the dealer think I am cheating? At that time, will someone come looking for trouble?" "It doesn't matter." Luli shrugged and replied, "The dealer will come to me sooner or later anyway. Just do whatever you want." Luli walked to that corner, found a man in the steward's uniform and said, "Sir, I want to take part in the duel." "You?" The steward was surprised. The people who were waiting in line for the fight all put on cruel smiles. They looked at Luli as if he was a dead man. "Are you sure?" The steward looked at Luli coldly. It was more and more like he was looking at a dead man. Luli made up his mind. He made up his mind and said, "I am sure." "Okay." The steward said indifferently, "Each time you make a bet, you will get an icy heart crystal. However, it doesn't matter if you die or not." "Okay." Luli acted like he was ready to risk everything, which amused the warriors nearby. Many of them looked at Luli. One of them suddenly said, "Chief Steward Lu, can you arrange for me to play with this young man later?" PFF, another old man spat and said, "Hawk, don't you have any shame? How can you bully a kid?" "Chief Steward Lu, I will fight with this young man." "Let go of this young man and let me do it." "Piss off. I have a special affinity with this young man." There were more than 20 people nearby. Luli was in high demand. They all wanted to fight with Luli. There was only one icy heart crystal for each fight. If a warrior of similar abilities were to fight with Luli, he might risk his life or even die. Therefore, to fight with Luli was equivalent to getting an icy heart crystal for free. Naturally, everyone wanted to fight with Luli. "Shut up." Chief Steward Lu shouted coldly. He glanced over to the others. Seeing that no one said anything, he looked at the arena. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the fight was over. Chief Steward Lu pointed to a warrior at the initial stage of the third tribulation and said, "One-eyed, go and fight with him." Luli was surprised to see Chief Steward Lu pointing at him. A look of astonishment appeared on his face. He didn't expect that it would be his turn soon. He looked at his opponent and sensed his abilities. He had a better impression of this chief steward now. Clearly, this chief steward had taken care of Luli. He didn't arrange a powerful opponent. Luli walked onto the arena. A one-eyed man walked up. It was not that he was blind in the other eye. He only had one eye. Clearly, he was of a special race. Soon, the arena became lively. Seeing that Luli, a warrior at the second tribulation, dared to go up, people were mocking him. Then, many people became excited. They took the initiative to place their bets. Some even bet heavily on the one-eyed. They all knew that the one-eyed often fought. Even though his abilities were not particularly strong, his comprehensive abilities could be compared to the middle stage of the third tribulation. A warrior at the second tribulation would go up. Wasn't he giving them a free win? Such a pity. The odds for the one-eyed were low, 5-1. Naturally, Luli's odds were higher, 1-5. But even if the odds were 1-10, nobody would bet. Qin and others secretly investigated. They found that very few people bet on Luli. Even if there were, they only bet several ice heart crystals. Maybe they were just buying for fun. "I bet that white-haired young man will win." Qin found the one who placed the bet and bet all 30 ice heart crystals. The one who placed the bet was a bit surprised. He knew that Qin and Luli were in cahoots with Luli. But the amount Qin bet was small. The one who placed the bet didn't mind. He took the ice heart crystals and gave Qin a jade talisman. "How many ice heart crystals can I pawn?" Qin suddenly took out the immortal demon tower. This was a secret treasure, a replica of an imperial weapon. It was a good one. The one who placed the immortal demon tower was shocked. He took it over and felt it carefully. Then he said, I can pawn 3,000 ice heart crystals. Chapter 2145. 3,000 ice heart crystals. If Luli won, then it would be 15,000 ice heart crystals. This was a large sum. Even though there were so many people in the hall, and the gambling was quite lively, most of them were betting on dozens or hundreds. Few people would bet on thousands of ice heart crystals, unless it was a sure win or a loss made them lose their minds. The one who collected the bets narrowed his eyes. But he must have seen a lot. He returned the tower of immortal demon to Qin, cupped his fists, and said, I need to ask about this. Please wait a moment. Qin nodded. Ganlin pouted and said, You're being a bit harsh. Qin smiled and replied, Luli will be noticed by the banker if he wins 1 or 2 rounds. If so, why don't we make some money while nobody knows about him? Why don't we do something that is sure to win? You are right. Ganlin nodded. Now it was up to the banker to accept the bet. Luli had started the fight inside. The one-eyed man began to attack Luli. Luli kept stepping back, and there was even a trace of panic on his face. Russell, the one who placed the bet walked over and said, Young master, are you sure you want to bet on that treasure? Yes. Luli took out the tower of immortal demon. The man took it over and gave Luli a jade token with 3,000 written on it. He put the tower away and added, Young master, if you want it back in the future, you can come to me anytime. But you will have to pay some interest. Okay. Qin waved his hand and looked at Luli. Now, all he had to do was wait for the result so he could collect the ice heart crystals. The fight inside was getting more and more intense. The one-eyed man held an iron rod in his hand and kept stabbing at Luli. Every time, there would be a streak of rainbow. The shield inside was under attack, and it kept giving out rays of light. Luli was stabbed once. His armor cracked, and blood oozed out. Clearly, Luli did it on purpose. If he had mobilized the energy in his acupoints to protect himself, this man's attack wouldn't have been able to break his defense. Bang, bang, bang. The one-eyed man's attacks came like a storm. Luli dodged to the left and right and dodged in embarrassment. He was wounded again. His armor was all cracked. He was stabbed for more than a dozen times. It was a miserable sight. It's almost done, right? His acting was on point. Luli noticed that many people were looking at him as if he were a dead man, which meant that he was acting well. Those people all thought that he was not good at fighting. Luli secretly let out some worms of the void which penetrated into the ground and then sneaked into the one-eyed's body. With a roar, he took out the 7-star saber and released the Slayer Ghost Slash. A sky-shaking beam of light lit up the sky. Next, the beam of light spun a few times in mid-air before heavily striking the one-eyed man. The one-eyed man's body was blasted away, and he slammed heavily into the barrier of light. The people outside the arena saw a one-eyed dragon tumbling down, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. His entire body was in so much pain that he was rolling on the ground, unable to resist at all. Immediately, there was an uproar. Luli looked like he was going to die at any moment. How could he injure the one-eyed warrior with one move? That killer move did not seem to be particularly powerful. It was just somewhat strange. I admit defeat. One-eyed howled. Then he looked at Luli and begged, Lord, please have mercy. Please have mercy. Buzzing, more than a dozen worms of the void crawled out from the one-eyed warrior's body, went underground, and returned to Luli's body. Now that the one-eyed warrior had admitted defeat, Luli would not kill him. He was delighted. He walked down in strides and sat in a corner to tend his wounds. Many people were swearing. Luli had unexpectedly won, and they had lost a lot of ice heart crystals. What was more, they didn't know how Luli won. Only a few dozens of people had a meaningful look in their eyes. 15,000 ice heart crystals. Qin and Ganlin were overjoyed. They'd been digging for half a month and only got 30 ice heart crystals. Now, Luli went up to fight, and they made a bet. They had earned 15,000 ice heart crystals. Now, One of them could leave the Ice Valley at any time. The person who opened this place was indeed very generous. He immediately delivered the immortal demon tower, and even delivered 15,150 ice heart crystals, not a single one less. Luli, Xinjian's eyes were burning with passion. He sent a message to Luli. I got 15,000 ice heart crystals. You go and fight another round. I will put the 15,000 ice heart crystals on the line. We will have enough. 15,000? Luli was surprised. He replied, You put the tower of a mortal demon on the line? Xinjian nodded without a trace. Luli secretly admired Xinjian's courage. A young master of a big family was different. He was so generous. Okay, now that he had 15,000 ice heart crystals, one more round was enough. Luli healed his wounds for a while and pretended to stand up. He said to Chief Steward Liu, Sir, I want to continue the fight. Continue? Chief Steward Liu had a meaningful look in his eyes. He thought about it for a while and said, You heal your wounds first. I will arrange for you to fight later. Chief Steward Liu winked at a black-robed warrior in the field without leaving a trace. That warrior left the field quietly and went into a side chamber. In the side chamber sat an old man in a luxurious robe. On his back and on his legs, there were two beautiful ladies massaging his shoulders and legs. The black-robed warrior walked in, cupped his fists, and said, Second Master, something happened. The old man in a luxurious robe suddenly opened his eyes and asked, What is it? There are 3 young men here, the black-robed warrior explained. One of them seems to be at the second tribulation realm. Just now he went up. His partner put up a treasure as collateral and won 15,000 ice heart crystals. Now, that man is going to fight again. I think they will have to put down the 15,000 ice heart crystals again. Oh, the old man in a luxurious robe stood up and said with interest, I will go and have a look. The old man walked to the door of the side chamber. He glanced around and found Lu Li, Xinjian, and Ganlin easily. He took a few glances and stepped back. He waved his hand and said, Let him fight, let them fight. Let the wild wolves come up and kill him. Wild wolves? The black-robed warrior showed a cruel smile. It seemed that Second Master was angry. Some time ago, they were fooled by Old Man Azura. Now, someone wanted to trick them again. Did they really think their ice heart crystals were easy to earn? What about the odds this time? The black-robed warrior was in a difficult position. If the odds were not good, they might suffer a loss this time. Second Master thought about it and said, Let the wild wolves wear a mask. On the surface, he is only at the third tribulation realm. People outside will bet on the white-haired young man to win. We can make a fortune. Let's make the odds 1-1. Second Master is so wise. The black-robed old man cupped his fists and accepted the order. Second Master's plan was perfect. Now, everyone knew that Lu Li was pretending to be weak. If another warrior at the initial stage of the third tribulation realm was sent up, they would all bet on Lu Li. Chapter 2146. In a time for less than the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Lu Li went on stage again. He hadn't even wiped off the blood on his body, which surprised many gamblers. Was he going to cheat them again, or was he going to throw the game? When Lu Li's opponent came on stage, the crowd was in an uproar. Lu Li's opponent was another warrior at the initial stage of the third tribulation. Even though Lu Li was covered in blood and looked half dead, everyone had seen how powerful he was. Was the dealer going to play the same trick twice? Did he think everyone was an idiot? Several powerful warriors sensed and made sure that Lu Li's opponent was only at the initial stage of the third tribulation. Many people didn't hesitate anymore. They bet on Lu Li directly. Of course, some people did the opposite. They thought the dealer was going to make an upset on purpose, so they bet on Lu Li's opponent. When Xinjian and Ganlin saw that Lu Li's opponent was at the initial stage of the third tribulation, they didn't feel happy. Instead, they were surprised. The dealer couldn't be so stupid. They knew Lu Li was hiding his fighting capacity, and they would bet on him. Why would they send an average warrior of the third tribulation to fight Lu Li? Wasn't this giving them ice heart crystals? The dealer was not that stupid. There must be something wrong with this warrior of the third tribulation. I bet 15,000 ice heart crystals on the white-haired young man. After a while, Qin shouted. His voice was loud and attracted everyone's attention. Many people looked over. They were surprised to see Qin was unfamiliar. Qin was young, but he had so many ice heart crystals. Was he a member of some big family? Since he was so optimistic about Lu Li, it seemed that Lu Li was going to win. Many people who were not determined enough placed their bets. 15,000 ice heart crystals was not a small amount. It seemed that the dealer was going to lose a lot this time. Qin shouted in such a loud voice to attract everyone's attention. After all, 15,000 was not a small amount. He was afraid that the dealer would kill them secretly instead of paying up. The odds were 1-to-1, but it was enough. The three of them only needed 30,000 ice heart crystals to leave the frozen valley. More ice heart crystals would be meaningless. The three of them didn't forge artifacts, and they didn't know where to get divine stones. I bet 5,000 ice heart crystals on the white-haired young man. An old man's faint voice resounded not far from Qin's group. The two of them glanced over and looked at each other in dismay. The one who placed the bet was someone familiar. It was the patriarch Gui that Lu Li met in the mine. This old man had fought with Lu Li before, so he knew about Lu Li's abilities. There was an endless stream of people placing their bets, but Lu Li, who was inside the shield, felt an indescribable pressure. It was a black-haired, middle-aged man with a Wolf King mask. His eyes were cold and calm. Lu Li sensed danger from him. Blood Fairy, set up the Divine Inscription Dojo, quick. Without any hesitation, Lu Li told Blood Fairy to sneak underground. There were divine glyphs in the ground. After some modifications, they could build a divine glyphs plaza. Lu Li felt some pressure in this battle. If he took out the godly metal, then there would be no suspense. However, he could not use the godly metal. Therefore, Lu Li had to ask Blood Fairy to build a plaza of divine runes to suppress the enemy. Blood Fairy had learned a new type of divine rune plaza. Not only could she seal off divine energy, but she could also attack the enemy's soul. Lu Li was not sure if it would work on this opponent. The man with the Wolf King mask did not make a move. Clearly, he was placing his bets on the people outside. Blood Fairy was building the divine rune plaza. Lu Li would be happier if his opponent did not make a move. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, almost all the people had placed their bets. The man with the Wolf King mask finally made a move. He cupped his fists and said, "Wolf, nice to meet you." Since the Wolf King was being so polite, Lu Li would not lose his composure. He cupped his fists and said, "Lu Li, nice to meet you." It would take some time for the Divine Rune Plaza to be ready. Lu Li did not mind. This time, Lu Li did not make the first move. He wanted to figure out the man's skills before making a move. Boy, Wolf took action. A pair of hooks appeared in his hands. He dashed forward and reached Lu Li in an instant. There was no afterimage. Clearly, this was the fundamental principle of space. Lu Li could feel the fluctuation of space. Swish! Wolf swung the hook at Lu Li's neck. A surge of destructive energy came from the hook. This man had cultivated the fundamental principle of destruction. The hook glowed. Clearly, it was a piece of valuable artifact. He threw out the other hook stinger, which transformed into dozens of hooked stingers in the air and whizzed towards the back. With 2 fundamental principles released at the same time, this man's abilities had surpassed the initial stage of the third tribulation. That being said, he did not reveal too much of his abilities. He must be trying to buy some time, so that Lu Li would misjudge his abilities. Lu Li's strategy was simple. He took out the cauldron of 1,000 transformations and turned it into a huge shield. Then, he pressed forward with the shield. Lu Li's physical body was strong, and his strength was horrifying. Average warriors at the peak of the third tribulation would not be a match for him. Even though this man's comprehensive abilities were not at the initial stage of the third tribulation, Lu Li believed that he would not be a match for him in terms of physical strength. The Cauldron of 1,000 Transformations was a secret artifact, a powerful one at that. It had been nurtured by several generations of powerful warriors of the Yun family for hundreds of thousands of years. That being said, its energy was not too horrifying. After all, it was not a piece of imperial weapon or a piece of holy weapon. This secret artifact would not attract too many people's attention. Luli planned to use the relic weapon only as a last resort. Usually, he would use the cauldron of 1,000 transformations. Boom! The hook and the cauldron of 1,000 transformations bumped into each other. A strong force almost knocked the hook out of Wolf's hand. Luli was fast as well. Wolf was knocked away and smashed into the shield. Boom! Luli pushed the cauldron of 1,000 transformations to his back. A hook was knocked away, but it made an arc in the air and flew back to Wolf's hand. Whoosh! The wild wolf flew over again, but this time, its expression was somewhat grave. It was not as casual as before. He could tell that Luli was quite capable. If he did not take this seriously, he might lose. Once he lost, Patriarch 2 would lose a lot of ice heart crystals. Wolf believed that his days would not be easy, so he must try his best. Hoi! Wolf broke through the air with his hook. The hook in his hand glowed and emitted divine might. His body was faintly discernible in midair. He must have learned a powerful spatial, fundamental meaning. Boom! Luli took the cauldron of Wolf's stab, but the next second, Wolf disappeared in midair. Then a figure appeared behind Luli and stabbed at the back of Luli's head. 6th rank, fundamental meaning, astral transformation. An old man outside cried out in alarm. His complexion became unsightly. Many people also began to curse loudly. Wolf had learned such a powerful fundamental meaning. Even though he was only at the initial stage of the third tribulation, his abilities could be compared to warriors at the peak of the third tribulation. Luli looked good, but how could he stand it? The astral transformation fundamental meaning was famous among the third realm. The fact that it was classified as a 6th rank fundamental meaning showed how powerful it was. The astral transformation fundamental meaning was a fusion of fundamental meaning. It could teleport continuously and attack continuously. At most, it could attack for tens of thousands of times in a row. Wolf's hook was a secret treasure. The shield in Luli's hand looked good, but could it stand the continuous attacks? Once the astral transformation fundamental meaning was released, the attacks would be continuous like surging waves, faster and faster, more brutal. Boom, boom, boom. Next to Luli, the wolf kept flashing. Sometimes it would appear on the left, sometimes on the right, sometimes on the top. Dozens of hooks would stab at Luli almost every second. Luli kept changing his position with the cauldron of 1,000 transformation, enduring the wolf's attacks. Again and again, the hook and the shield formed by the cauldron of 1,000 transformation bumped into each other, creating sparks. "You are good," Luli nodded. If it were not for the fact that he had activated the mark of Tao, which made his senses dozens of times more sensitive, he might not be able to react. But if this was the extent of the wolf's skills, then he would lose for sure. P.S. Originally, there were 2 chapters today. I drank too much and was a bit dizzy, so I slacked off for a day. Chapter 21:47. Boom, boom, boom. The wolf had attacked for over 100 times. Instead of resting, the wolf's attacks became more violent and more forceful. Luli was having an easy time. He was using the mark of Great Path to be more sensitive. As soon as the wolf appeared, he could sense it. He could wave the shield and stop the wolf's attacks. The shield was large and could cover one side. Therefore, the wolf's attacks seemed to be ever-changing. Actually, the wolf was defending from 5 directions. After over 100 attacks, Blood Fairy said, "Master, it is ready. Do you want to activate it?" The plaza was ready, but Luli did not want to activate it. After all, the wolf's attacks seemed to be ferocious, but could not hurt him. There was no need to expose the plaza. Buzzing, Luli began to release worms. He quietly released hundreds of worms of the void from underground. When the wolf attacked again, Luli dashed forward and smashed at the wolf with the shield. Boom! The wolf was smashed away. At the same time, the worms of the void came out as well. The wolf had just been smashed out, and the worms of the void were too fast. Before the wolf could react, hundreds of worms of the void had entered his body. Hoi! Wolf didn't mind the worms of the void at all. Instead, he seemed to be cruel. He suddenly disappeared on the spot and reappeared above Lu Li's head in the next second. Then, Lu Li was stunned by what happened. Boom! The wolf exploded, turning into a rain of blood that covered an area with a radius of 1,000 feet around Lu Li. The worms of the void that entered Lu Li's body had no target to devour. They could only fly around in the air. Self-destruct? Not like it. Lu Li used the mark of Great Path to check. Soon, he was taken aback. He noticed that the blood mist had formed a force field. From the force field came a surge of horrifying energy. Lu Li sensed fatal danger. What kind of skill is this? Lu Li's eyes flickered. He stepped back quickly. However, no matter how he moved, the blood mist around him moved with him. The blood mist began to writhe around him. Then, Lu Li's blood became restless sorcery. Lu Li was taken aback. The wild wolves must not have blown themselves up. They must have released some strange evil skill to suck all the blood in Lu Li's body. Lu Li wouldn't die after all the blood was sucked out, but he would be seriously injured. Then, he would be easily killed by the wild wolves. Bloodthirsty, evil formation. An old man outside cried out in alarm, and a trace of fear appeared in his eyes. Many people also revealed looks of shock. They had all heard of this kind of evil art. It could suck the enemy's blood dry, and ordinary people did not know how to break it. I've lost all my ice heart crystals this time. Where did this wild wolf come from? He actually possesses such a terrifying evil art. I've been tricked by him. It's over. My 3,000 ice heart crystals are finished. The people outside were cursing and swearing. This time, many people had bet heavily on Lu Li. Seeing this, they were all angry. They felt like they had been cheated, but they were willing to accept the loss. They could only blame themselves for being blind. Will Lu Li be okay? Qin Zhan sent a message to Ganlin. Ganlin was not so sure. Ganlin wasn't so sure either. He thought about it and said, "Trust Lu Li. He has more battle experience than us. He hasn't used his skills yet." Blood Fairy used the Field of Runes. Lu Li dashed back to where he was and told Blood Fairy to use the Field of Runes. He believed that even though the wild wolf was using evil art, he would not turn into a mist. He must be hiding in the air. As long as he could suppress his divine energy, the wild wolf would not be able to use his evil art. By then, it would be easier to deal with him. Buzzing, space began to tremble. Blood Fairy's Field of Runes was activated. This Field of Runes was released at the same time, suppressing divine energy and attacking the soul at the same time. An invisible force field came out and covered up the entire space. What surprised Lu Li was that the wild wolf did not come out. The mist of blood had been shrouding him. He could no longer suppress his blood, and it began to ooze out from his pores. Don't panic. Lu Li forced himself to calm down. The wild wolf could not turn into a mist of blood. A human was made of flesh and blood. How could he disappear? Even the most powerful evil art could not turn himself into a mist of blood and then come back. Buzzing, Lu Li took out the bead of ghosts. The bead glowed and a ghost came out. The bead of ghosts was not of much use. Only this ghost was impressive. Lu Li controlled the ghost to search for nearby creatures. Ghost Shadow was an incorporeal body, so was very sensitive to living beings hiding in the void. The ghostly figure whooshed by and then vanished. Lu Li's eyes glowed. He aimed at a direction and punched at it. Boom! The void trembled. A bead came out from the void. Then, a man emerged in midair. Lu Li could no longer conserve his strength. He punched at the wild wolf. Boom! The wild wolf was smashed away. There were sounds of bones cracking. The wild wolf cried out in pain. Blood sprayed out from his pores. At the same time, Lu Li's blood was sucked out as well. The wild wolf sneered. "God of massacre. Give up or you will die a miserable death. Is that so?" Lu Li sneered. Many worms of the void and the Goo King flew out from his body toward the wild wolf. At the same time, Lu Li dashed forward and used his body to resist the wild wolf's hook. Lu Li punched at the wolf. A life for a life. Lu Li's body was strong, and he was full of energy. It was okay for him to lose some blood. He didn't believe that the wild wolf could survive his attacks. The wild wolf was stunned to realize that its hook could only cut open Lu Li's skin and flesh. It couldn't even break Lu Li's bones. What? People outside were in an uproar. The hook was clearly a piece of treasure. How strong was Lu Li's body? Many people's eyes glowed. If Lu Li could win, then so could they. They had thought that they were doomed to lose. But now, they could make a fortune. They felt they had gone from hell to heaven. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Li kept on attacking, and the wild wolf kept on stabbing. Both of them felt they were fighting with their lives. It was a matter of which one would die first. Of course, anyone with discerning eyes could tell that Lu Li was in a much better state than the wild wolf. There were several holes on the wolf's body. If Lu Li kept on, he would die. Got a massacre. Right at that moment, a voice suddenly came to Lu Li's mind. It was a strange man's voice. You give up this fight. You bet 15,000 ice heart crystals, and I will pay you 20,000. How about that? The dealer finally showed up, but Lu Li didn't want to cooperate with the dealer. Their ice heart crystals were enough for him to win this fight. He didn't want to fake it. What was more, the situation was so obvious. If he gave up, people outside would hate him. Therefore, he punched again, looked at the wild wolf, and said, "Give up or die." Chapter 2148. Wolf looked into Lu Li's cold eyes. He knew that if he didn't surrender, Lu Li wouldn't mind sending him to hell. Clearly, Lu Li's hands were stained with blood, and he was used to life and death. Wolf couldn't kill Lu Li. If this went on, he would be killed by Lu Li. Wolf had strong defense, but he couldn't stand Lu Li's attacks. His bloodthirst formation was powerful, but Lu Li's body was too strong. Wolf couldn't outlast Lu Li. Boom! Lu Li punched at his head again. Wolf's eyes were blurred. He bit his teeth and shouted, "I give up." His voice was so loud that people outside heard it. There was no turning back now. The steward outside shouted, "The duel is over. God of Massacre Lu wins." Good. Cheers came from outside. Many people were overjoyed. They thought Lu Li was going to lose for sure. Now, the tables had turned. This was a pleasant surprise. Many people looked at Lu Li with gentleness. They liked people who could help them earn ice heart crystals. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were happy. They could leave the Ice Valley after winning 15,000 ice heart crystals. Lu Li didn't show much joy on his face. Just now, the dealer told him to give up. He didn't, which offended the dealer. It was said that the dealer had connections with people of the Ice Valley. There shouldn't be any trouble for the three of them to leave the valley, but they might be hunted down. Lu Li sat down with his legs crossed after he walked out of the shield. He took some healing pellets. He was injured, but nobody dared to touch him under the watchful eyes of the public. Naturally, he wanted to recover first. The dealer didn't dare to cheat Qin Zhan's bet. After all, there were so many people watching. They needed credibility. Without credibility, nobody would have the guts to gamble in the future. "Lu Li, are you okay?" Qin Zhan and the others walked over with the ice heart crystals. Lu Li waved his hand and asked them to wait. They were not in a hurry, so they just sat there. Lu Li cultivated for 4 hours. Several more people went up to fight. Lu Li himself only suffered some superficial wounds and lost some blood. He recovered more than half after a while. Not a single one of their bones was broken, and they had already turned into hard black bones. It was very difficult for ordinary attacks to break them. He took out some water to wipe his face and waved his hand. "Let's go." Gan Lin and Gan Lin followed Lu Li to the outside. As soon as they reached the door, Lu Li squinted his eyes because there were people at the door. 2 men in black were standing there, clearly waiting for them. "Death God Lu, my second master invites you over," a man in black said. His actions and words were polite. It seemed that he was here to invite Lu Li as a guest. However, since the other party had sent 2 people, it was obvious that they were threatening him. Otherwise, only one person would have been needed. Oomph. After Qin Zhan left the second layer of heaven, he let loose a bit. He snorted heavily as killing intent soared from his body. He coldly shouted, "If we don't go, are you going to force us?" Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Qin Zhan, wait a moment. I will go and see Master too." "Lu Li, Qin Zhan was getting anxious. What if something happened to Lu Li by himself? Lu Li waved his hand in an overbearing manner and said to the man in black, "Lead the way." The man in black led Lu Li to a corridor on the side. Finally, they entered a side chamber where Lu Li met the so-called Master Two. Master Two was tall and sturdy. He wore a black robe and sat on a lion chair like a coiled dragon. He stared at Lu Li with a ferocious look. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. However, he didn't smile at all when facing a guest, which indicated that he was dissatisfied. Fourth Tribulation Realm. Lu Li sensed this old man's chi and energy was profound. Clearly, this old man was a powerful warrior. Lu Li thought about it, cupped his fists, and said, "Greetings, Master Two." That got Lu, right? Master Two held 2 huge walnuts in his hands and kept turning them. His eyes were rolling as well, but he didn't say anything. He just stared at Lu Li, releasing a kind of invisible pressure. Lu Li waited for a while. Seeing that Master Two had no intention to talk, Lu Li cupped his fists and said, "Master Two, if there's nothing else, I will leave now." "How dare you?" The man in black standing next to Master Two was furious. He scolded, "Nobody in the ice-ceiling valley dares to be so rude to Master Two." "Really?" Lu Li smiled lightly and said, "Politeness is mutual. I've always been like this. If people respect me, I will respect them back." Lu Li didn't finish his words, but his meaning was clear. Lu Li was not satisfied with old Master Two's attitude. If old Master Two still behaved like this, then they would fall out with each other. Not bad. A faint smile appeared on Second Master's face, and the black-clothed man beside him shrank back. He knew that Second Master's smile was a sign that he was furious. Patriarch Two looked at Lu Li and said, "Young man, it is good to have drive. But this is the third heaven, not your universe." Lu Li smiled lightly and said in a tit-for-tat manner, "Young people are young people because they have drive. If they don't have a drive, then what kind of young man are they? Second Master, when you were young, you probably had more drive than me, right?" "Interesting." Old Two twirled the walnut in his hand, muttered to himself for a moment, and said, "You made me lose hundreds of thousands of ice heart crystals in that match just now, so I won't beat around the bush. Help me fight 3 matches, and I'll give you 30,000 ice heart crystals, or convert them into divine stones. How about it?" 3 matches? Lu Li frowned. He thought about it and said, "Do I win or lose 3 matches?" "Lose." Patriarch Two gave his answer and added, "I will not let you lose too badly, nor will I let you be seriously injured. How about that? If I win, I can fight." Lu Li answered without any hesitation, "How you arrange it is up to you. I just want to win." Lu Li was not comfortable with fake fights. If he lost, he would be hated by many people. Who could tell who was among the people who bet on the fights? If he was targeted, he would be in a lot of trouble. Gamblers would vent their anger on the people they bet on when they lost. It would be fine if he won, but if he lost, they would hate him. Lu Li didn't want to take the risk just for 30,000 ice heart crystals. Lu Li didn't want the ice heart crystals because he couldn't take them out. Lu Li planned to convert them into divine stones. After they left the ice-ceiling valley, they would have to spend money to go out. Many cities required divine stones to go in. Sure, Patriarch Two frowned and agreed to Lu Li's terms. But he added, "Time is of the essence. Tomorrow you go and fight. I will arrange for you a famous warrior at the peak of the third tribulation. Use all your skills and win beautifully. Don't let anyone see anything wrong." "Okay." Lu Li nodded with satisfaction. He extended his hand and said, "Can I have 10,000 divine stones in advance?" Patriarch Two waved his hand. The man in black took out an interspatial ring. Lu Li took it over and walked out. Qin Zhan and Patriarch Two were relieved to see Lu Li back. Lu Li was the backbone of the two. If something happened to Lu Li, they wouldn't know what to do. "Let's go back first." Lu Li said nothing. He brought the two back to the cave. He told them what he just said to Patriarch Two. Then he threw the 10,000 divine stones to Qin Zhan and said, "Qin Zhan, I need to heal. Take this 10,000 divine stones and go find out some information. We will leave as soon as we finish the 3 matches and get as far away from the ice ceiling valley as possible. Chapter 2149. Luli went back and rested for a day before he went on stage again. Patriarch 2 had made a good arrangement. He sent a famous warrior who was often in the arena. He was known to be invincible in defense. He had a fundamental principle of Earth. When he released it, there would be a yellowish halo around him. The halo would pulsate in sync with the pulse of the Earth. The fundamental principle of Earth was integrated with the Earth. With the help of the strength of the Earth, his defense was strong. This man had been on the arena for more than 30 times. He never lost unless he encountered a warrior of the 4th tribulation. Relying on a strong defense, he would wear out his enemies slowly. His attacks were not sharp, but they could corrode the divine energy of his enemies. The longer the fight went on, the more dangerous it would be. Toward the end, when the divine energy was almost gone, how could one fight with him? Luli was just putting on a show, so he felt no pressure. Before he went on stage, Patriarch 2 sent someone to tell Luli about this man. Luli was confident that this fight would not be difficult. Tianjun, please. A short and strong man went on stage. Luli was looking forward to this fight after hearing about his skills. It would be helpful for him to see some powerful, fundamental principle of Lu. God of Massacre. Luli cupped his fists. He had decided to use the name God of Massacre from now on. It was imposing and not eye-catching. There were many people calling him God of Massacre, Demon, God of God. There were thousands of people outside. Their eyes glowed when they saw Luli. But when they saw that his opponent was Tianjun, nobody looked at Luli anymore. They were all too familiar with Tianjun's abilities. His defense was almost invincible below the 3rd tribulation realm. So far, nobody had seen how Tianjun could crack his defense. Luli was only at the 2nd tribulation realm. His comprehensive abilities were good, but he could only be compared to the peak of the 3rd tribulation. He should not be able to crack Tianjun's defense. Luli and Tianjun began after they cupped their fists. Either way, it would not be an easy fight. The people outside had more than enough time to place their bets. As long as the winner was not decided and there were no obvious signs of defeat, the dealer would accept bets. This was a chance for the gamblers to observe the abilities of the two. That being said, neither of them would resort to killing moves until the very last moment. Anything could happen. The odds for Luli were 1-2 and Tianjun were 2-1. But as Patriarch 2 had expected, almost all the people were betting on Tianjun. Everyone knew about Tianjun's record. He won more than he lost. Luli should not be able to crack his defense. Tianjun released his defense true intent, and a khaki-colored halo enveloped him. His entire body couldn't be seen, and all that could be seen was a khaki-colored figure. After Tianjun released the circle of light, he did not move. He just stood there, holding a Vajra scepter in his hand. The circle of light expanded and contracted, making him look like a Buddha. Using the happy steps, Luli flew up and smashed at Tianjun's head with his fists whistling in the wind. Tianjun didn't move, allowing Luli to do as he pleased. He swung his King Kong Vajra at Luli's legs. Boom! With a muffled sound, the yellowish halo began to tremble. Luli felt as if he had punched into water. His fists sank several inches into the halo and could not go any further. Bang! Tianjun's King Kong pestle swept over. Luli felt a pain in his legs, and he was knocked away. The force wasn't strong, but he could feel a thread of strange energy flowing into his meridians. This punch was not particularly strong, so it did not cause Luli much harm. That being said, the energy penetrated into his meridians like toxins and began to corrode his divine energy. The energy was mild and it hid deep inside his meridians, mixing with divine energy. If it were not for the fact that Patriarch 2 had sent someone to tell Luli, he would not have cared. Usually, when fighting against Tianjun, warriors would not pay much attention to what was going on inside their bodies. They would just keep on attacking Tianjun. In the end, when more than half of the divine energy was corroded, they would be alerted. By then, there would be nothing they could do. Boy, Luli was not concerned about his divine energy being corroded. He flew up and continued to attack Tianjun. His fist kept on landing on Tianjun. However, he could not inflict any harm on Tianjun. Instead, he was smashed away by Tianjun's king, Kong Vajra, again and again. Everyone who saw this placed their bets on Tianjun. In the past, Tianjun's opponents would always attack like this, and they would all end up losing miserably. Blood Fairy, can you build a plaza of divine runes? The one that looks glamorous and powerful, but does not have much power? Luli communicated with Blood Fairy. Patriarch 2 had told him that he must win with grace. Tianjun worked for Patriarch 2. Therefore, it was an easy win for Luli. Now, it all came down to how well he could win. He had to convince the gamblers that he had won with his abilities. He could not let them see anything wrong. That's easy. Blood Fairy had been studying divine runes for many years. It was a piece of cake for her to build one. She snuck out from Luli's body and went underground. Usually, when Blood Fairy came out from Luli's body, no one would see her. However, this time, Luli had Blood Fairy expose herself on purpose. He did not let Tianjun see her, but the gamblers outside. What? Someone outside saw Blood Fairy and knew that she was a kind of goblin. Unfortunately, psychic power could not reach underground. Therefore, when Blood Fairy went underground, the gamblers outside were not so sure. Buzzing, Luli released the worms of the void again. This time, he did not go underground. Instead, he released them outside in a showy manner. He even let out the dark golden worms of the void. The shield was filled with worms of the void. It was a frightening sight. The worms of the void could become intangible and could pierce through Tianjun's shield to enter his body. As the worms of the void disappeared into Tianjun's body, many gamblers outside were taken aback. So many worms had entered Tianjun's body. Even if one worm took a bite out of Tianjun's body would be gone. If Tianjun lost, they would lose. Buzzing, inside the shield, there was suddenly a white mist. In the white mist, flames rose to the sky. There seemed to be some thunderbolts moving around in the mist. There were also some earthy yellow dragons coming out from the ground. It was a frightening sight. Blood Fairy's Divine Rune Plaza was activated. This Divine Rune Plaza was actually a formation of illusion. It looked scary, but it was harmless. However, those on the outside could not use their psychic power in. Therefore, it looked scary, and people would think that this was some kind of powerful move. Luli moved in and out. Every now and then, they would hear Luli's shout. Even though Luli would be smashed away every now and then, people could tell that he was confident that he would win. Because of the white mist, people could not see Tianjun's face clearly. Every now and then, they would hear Tianjun's muffled groans and muffled cries of pain. Bit by bit, Luli and Tianjun's acting had convinced those outside that Luli had powerful means and that Tianjun was going to lose. Buzzing, after another hour, Luli shouted, "Tianjun, admit defeat or you will die." "I admit defeat," Tianjun shouted, unwilling to admit defeat. Then, the white mist disappeared. Everyone could see what was inside the shield. Tianjun's shield was broken. He was in a miserable state. One of his hands was reduced to bones and half of his leg was exposed. Many worms were wriggling and gnawing on the bones. Good. Patriarch 2 stood at the door of the side chamber. He nodded when he saw this. He said something to the black-robed man next to him and went in. Arrange for Luli to fight another round as soon as possible. For the last round, send God of Hawk and finish him. Finish him. Chapter 2150. The next day, Luli went on stage. This time, the opponent that Patriarch 2 arranged for him was even more famous. It was a strange race that was born with powerful flames. The flames that they released were so horrifying that not many people could stand it. This powerful warrior had a winning streak as well. Therefore, even though Luli had defeated Tianjun, there were still more people who chose to bet on the warrior from the exotic races. After all, Tianjun was strong in defense, while this guy was strong in offense. Most people would not even be able to last 1 or 2 incense sticks of time in his flames. If they did not admit defeat, they would be burned alive. This expert was called Xing Rui. His clan was called the Yin clan, and they were once a famous clan in the third heaven. They even had a great emperor. Unfortunately, they offended an even more powerful great emperor in the end, and their tribe was annihilated. Only a few of their tribesmen were left to wander and hide. After Xing Rui released the flames, Lu Li sensed the overbearing power. The flames were horrifying. They were not like the regular red or blue flames, but black flames. After the flames engulfed him, he felt as if he had disappeared, as if he had been burned to ashes. Smoke began to rise from Lu Li's body. His skin was burnt and his muscles were roasted. Lu Li didn't make a move. Instead, he mobilized the energy in his acupoints to protect his body and let the flames refine his body. Lightning and flames could temper one's body. This flame was so domineering that it was a good opportunity to temper one's body. Lu Li kept howling, but he did not move. He sat on the ground with his legs crossed, refining his body. From time to time, his hand would shoot out waves of divine power. It looked like he was fighting back. "If you can't take it, tell me." Xing Rui sent a message to Lu Li. He had been ordered to let Lu Li win. Therefore, Xing Rui actually had more horrifying flames, but he didn't release them. He was worried that Lu Li would die, so he sent a message at once. "All right, I can still hold on. I'll try my best to hold on for a while longer." How could Lu Li let go of such a good opportunity to refine his body? Then, he continued to scream and temper his body. The people outside could not see what was going on inside. They could only hear his screams. Countless people placed their bets. The second master would take as many as he could. After all, Xing Rui was one of their people. However, second master didn't dare to be too obvious. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he didn't accept any more bets. Many people were filled with regret. If they had known earlier, they would have placed more bets on Xing Rui. When Lu Li was enveloped by the flames, nobody could see him. They could only hear his miserable cries and some booming sounds as if Lu Li was struggling on his deathbed. The noise was getting louder, but Lu Li did not move. He sat on the ground and kept releasing divine energy. At the same time, he asked Blood Fairy to set up a powerful illusion formation that could not be used to attack. He had to act more realistically. Otherwise, the people outside would not be convinced, and he wouldn't be able to explain it to the second master. Lu Li struggled for a while. He noticed that his body was injured, but his resistance to fire was growing. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, his body was able to withstand this kind of flame. Xiao! His body flew up, flashing and moving around inside, so that others could vaguely see his figure moving inside. After a while, Blood Fairy finished setting up the illusion matrix. A thick white fog emerged, and then dragons of thunder, fire, and earth flew through the fog. The sound of wind and thunder could be heard. Those outside sensed something was off. Normally, someone would have been burned to death in the time it took for one incense stick to burn. However, Lu Li was still alive and kicking. Furthermore, he had released such a terrifying killer move. One had to know that Tianjun had been defeated by such a killer move. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Li also used the ghastly slash. Rays of crescent-shaped ray of sword light turned around in the air and hacked down. The might in heaven and earth came down, and those outside could feel it clearly. Those who placed their bets felt their hearts weighed down. Were they going to make a mistake again? Was this puny second tribulation heaven god going to turn the tables? Boom! After the time for another incense stick to burn, those outside felt their hearts were weighed down. The most powerful move of the fire race was fire. If the fire could not burn Lu Li to death, then there was nothing they could do to Lu Li. Lu Li was likely to win this fight. Boom! After the time for half an incense stick to burn, the flames died down. Xing Rui was smashed away. Half of his body was smashed into pieces. He was lying in a pool of blood. Lu Li seemed to be in a worse state. He was charred, and his muscles were smoking as if he was burnt. But Lu Li was still standing, holding the saber that the cauldron of 1,000 transformations had transformed into. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Miserable as he was, he could still fight. I admit defeat. Xing Rui had put on a good show. Now that he was seriously injured, he would not go on. Xing Rui shouted. People were cursing outside. Many people were looking at Xing Rui with unfriendly looks. Some of them were looking at Lu Li with hatred as well. Lu Li sighed. Even though many people hated Xing Rui, it was inevitable that he would be hated. One more to go. Lu Li walked out with difficulty. He would leave after one more fight. Patriarch 2 would give him 30,000 ice crystals, which was a lot of divine stones, enough for the three of them to teleport away. As long as they were far away from the ice valley, there was nothing they could do, even if they wanted to kill them. Supported by Gan Lin, Lu Li walked out of the arena. Along the way, many people looked at him as if he was a monster. Lu Li paid no attention to them and went back to his cave. Qin Zhan hadn't come back to gather information yet. Lu Li took some pellets and sat with his legs crossed to heal his wounds. After a day and a night of healing, he was more or less healed. Patriarch 2 sent someone to urge him to go, but he was not in a hurry. He had been refining his body in the flames for a long time. His physical body had been improved, and he needed to stabilize it. After the third fight, he would leave immediately. Therefore, he needed to be in the best condition. If he were to be badly injured in the third fight, and he was chased after by someone, all three of them would die. After another day of healing, Lu Li walked out. Qin Zhan had come back. Before Lu Li could ask, Qin Zhan took out a map and said, I have found out everything. After we leave the valley, we can reach a city if we fly towards the north for half a day. Once we are in the city, we can teleport more than 100 times with our divine stones. After that, nobody will be able to track us down. Fly for half a day? Lu Li raised his eyebrows and said with a straight face, Can't we teleport to the city from the valley? No. Qin Zhan shook his head and said, There is a teleportation formation in the frozen valley, but only for sergeants. This is an internal teleportation formation. Can't we make some connections? For example, give a commander some divine stones and teleport us once? Lu Li asked, unwilling to give up. It was too dangerous to fly for half a day to get out of the valley. If someone wanted to hunt them down, they would be targeted as soon as they left the valley. Half a day was enough for them to be doomed eternally. No, Qin Zhan sighed and said, I have thought about it. I even asked the sergeant. But the teleportation formation is too strict. Only the army of the frozen valley can be teleported. Then there is no other way. Lu Li's eyes flickered and he said, Tomorrow, I will fight the last fight. If there is no problem, we will leave. If things go wrong, we will stay in the valley for a while until people forget about us, and then we can sneak out. Chapter 21:51. When Lu Li showed up at the arena again, people were looking at him. Lu Li had won several fights in a row. It was hard for him to go unnoticed. After Lu Li signed up for the duel, more people started to pay attention. Many were ready to bet on Lu Li, hoping that Lu Li could turn the tables and help them win. Recently, many people had lost a lot of Ice Heart crystals because of Lu Li, and they were ready to win it back. When Lu Li's opponent was confirmed, many people became excited. Lu Li's opponent was just a warrior at the middle stage of the third tribulation, a nobody who had never been to a gambling arena before. Countless bets were placed, more than ever. Patriarch 2 was grinning from ear to ear. He accepted all the bets. The person he sent out this time was someone he had been secretly training for a long time. He was one of his trump cards, and he was going to send him out at the critical moment. This was the critical moment. The number of bets had reached hundreds of thousands of Ice Heart crystals, and there were still people placing their bets. Some people even took out treasures as collateral. As long as Lu Li lost, he could make millions of Ice Heart crystals. This was the biggest bet recently. When Lu Li saw his opponent, he was surprised. The middle stage of the third tribulation? What the hell was Patriarch 2 doing? Wasn't he asking people to place their bets on him? According to the deal he made with Patriarch 2, he had to win this one. Something abnormal was bound to happen. Did Patriarch 2 send out a powerful warrior to defeat him? If that was the case, things are going to be troublesome. Perhaps the second master wanted to take his life? If he wanted to kill Luli, he wouldn't even have to prepare the 30,000 ice heart crystals. If that was the case, it would be tricky. It would be wrong for him to win or lose. Either way, he would be in big trouble. If he won, Patriarch 2 would lose a lot of ice heart crystals, and he would vent his anger on Luli. If he lost, then all the other gamblers would hold a grudge against him. Also, his opponent might use his trump card to kill him directly. God of Hawk. His opponent cupped his fists. This man was average-looking, so average that he couldn't be found in a crowd. He was gentle as well, just like an average warrior. The more it was like this, the more serious Luli became. But what could he do now that he was on the arena? He could only cup his hands and say, "Gotta massacre Lu. Please give me some pointers." Luli did not take action. He sent a message to Blood Fairy. "Blood Fairy, can you build some kind of dojo to suppress the power of the relic?" Luli had to make some preparations. In case something went wrong, he would have to use the godly iron. Otherwise, he would lose his life, and everything would be meaningless. Sure, Blood Fairy transmitted her voice to him. "I can set up a divine inscription dojo that can seal off a radius of 300 meters around you. It should be able to seal off the divine might of the godly metal, but I can't be sure. The divine might of the godly metal is too strong. Try your best. Also, set up the illusory array and the god might dojo that can attack the soul." Luli told Blood Fairy to make 3 preparations. This time Luli planned to go all out. He must win this fight. The people outside were betting crazily. If he lost this battle, there would be people who were enraged. Perhaps they would tear him apart as soon as he went out. There were 4 tribulation Empyrean gods outside. On the other side, the hawk deity made his move. A flexible sword appeared in his hand, and with a shake, it was like a few poisonous snakes flicking their tongues. He flew over, and with a shake of the flexible sword, it turned into a few afterimages that pierced towards him. Hoi! Luli turned the cauldron of 1,000 transformations into a saber and hacked at the Slayer's ghost cut. The horrifying force in heaven and earth crushed down on the hawk deity. He could not move and was smashed away. Boom! The Slayer's ghost cut was infused with a fundamental principle, which increased its power. The armor in front of the hawk deity's chest was torn open, and there was a wound on his chest. Nice! The people outside cheered. Many who were undecided immediately placed their bets. Luli had wounded the hawk deity in one move. Wasn't the outcome clear? When would they wait for such a good opportunity? Patriarch 2 did not refuse anyone. As long as someone placed a bet, he would accept it. This caused some people to be bewildered. There were so many people betting this time. Could it be that the dealer had gone mad? Why would he accept bets now? If the dealer was not crazy, then it must be a trap. Boom, boom, boom. The hawk deity charged forward several times, but was smashed away by Luli every time. More wounds appeared on his body. That being said, the hawk deity's physical body was strong. The wounds would heal soon. The people outside continued to place their bets. After the hawk deity was smashed away for more than a dozen times, Patriarch 2 stopped accepting bets. Including the treasures, the number of bets had reached more than 1,000,000 ice heart crystals. This was the biggest bet in the past year. Patriarch 2 turned around and walked into the side chamber with a smile. He didn't want to watch this fight anymore. He knew the hawk deity's abilities too well. The hawk deity was invincible in the 3rd tribulation and could even fight against a warrior of the 4th tribulation. Luli had fought many battles. Patriarch 2 could tell that Luli could defeat warriors at the peak of the 3rd tribulation. Luli was not a match for the hawk deity. What kind of race is the hawk deity? Hawk. Is it a hawk or a demon? Luli was getting more and more serious. He had made more than a dozen moves. The hawk deity seemed to be injured, but the look in his eyes remained the same. Also, the hawk deity's blood was golden. Clearly, the hawk deity was from a special race. Blood Fairy, are you done? Hurry up. Luli saw that the people outside had stopped placing bets. The final battle must be coming soon. The The hawk deity had been releasing regular attacks of fundamental principle. He must be waiting for the order from the outside before he made his move. We need the time for one incense stick to burn. Blood Fairy said. Luli had an idea. He released many worms of the void from his body. He had decided to take the initiative to buy himself some time. The warriors outside were excited to see Luli releasing the worms. In the past few battles, Luli had won with the help of these worms. If the worms could gnaw the hawk deity half to death, then Luli's side would win. The worms of the void whooshed over and swarmed into the hawk deity. The hawk deity remained calm. When some dark worms entered the hawk deity's body, Luli was taken aback. The golden blood in the hawk deity was flowing wildly. A surge of energy spread out and suppressed all the worms of the void. Not even the dark worms could move. At the same time, the hawk deity's temperament changed. Previously, the hawk deity looked like an average middle-aged man. But now, the hawk deity was like an unsheathed sword. A sense of danger emerged from the depth of Luli's soul. Buzzing, the hawk deity suddenly burst into golden flames. Then, 3 pairs of golden wings grew out from his back. His nose turned into a golden hook, and between his eyebrows emerged a blood-red vertical eye. His robe was torn apart. Golden scales appeared on his skin. A surge of ferocious energy spread out from him. Is he an hawk? He doesn't look like an hawk. He has 3 eyes and 6 pairs of wings. What kind of hawk deity is he? That doesn't look like an eye. It is dark and has no eyeball. How? People outside were in a state of shock. They had thought that they would win for sure. But now, something had happened. How could they not be worried? Also, after hawk deity transformed, he did not look like an average hawk deity. A fore-tribulation old man carefully looked at the 3rd eye of the hawk god for a moment, and his expression changed greatly. His lips trembled, and he sighed. That is indeed not an eye, but a black hole. This is a powerful race from ancient times, mixed heaven blood hawk. What? A few people seemed to have heard of this race, and their faces immediately turned pale. One of them trembled for a moment and said absent-mindedly, Pure heaven blood eagle, that is one of the 10 great ancient races. If it is confirmed to be a pure heaven blood eagle, then he is almost invincible among the 3 tribulations. A 6-winged pure heaven blood eagle, even a 4-tribulation god, can barely fight. 10 ancient races? Oh no! Chapter 2152. Luli did not hear what was said outside. However, as soon as God of Hawk transformed, he felt the pressure. God of Hawk was so ferocious that Luli felt suffocated. It would take some time for Blood Fairy's Plaza to be set up. Luli had to hold on for a while before he could take out the relic iron. Luli asked, God of Hawk, are you from an ancient race? A hint of arrogance appeared on the eagle deity's face as he replied coldly, Muddy heaven blood eagle. Luli had just arrived at the 3rd heaven, and he knew nothing about the 10 ancient races. His expressions did not change much. He nodded and said, Yes, your race is strong. I feel I am being suppressed. I don't think I can win this fight. Ha ha ha. God of Hawk was filled with disdain. Luli wanted to win. He didn't understand what the words mixed heaven blood eagle meant at all. In ancient times, the mixed heaven blood eagle represented endless slaughter and supreme prestige. Many experts in the entire 3rd heaven would tremble in fear upon hearing the words, mixed heaven blood eagle. Even though God of Hawk had only cultivated 6 wings, he believed that he could defeat warriors at the 3rd tribulation realm. For example, Tianjun was known to be invincible in defense at the 3rd tribulation realm. However, under God of Hawk's full strength, Tianjun could not survive one move. Hoi! He shouted in a deep voice. The 6 golden wings on his back flapped, and he dashed toward Luli like a sharp sword. In a flash, he had reached Luli. Buzzing, after God of Hawk made his move, the robe on Luli's back was torn apart, and a pair of dragon wings appeared. Luli stepped back quickly with a smile and said, God of Hawk, look, I have wings as well. We are both from ancient races. How about we shake hands and make up? Yeah. God of Hawk was surprised to see that Luli could transform as well. He stopped and sized Luli up, but could not remember which ancient race Luli was from. What god of massacre Lu can transform as well? Is god of massacre Lu from an ancient race? Dragon wings? Is he from the ancient dragon race? I don't think so. He only has dragon wings and nothing else. Also, I don't feel any energy from ancient races. Many people's eyes glowed. They thought the tables had turned. If Luli was from an ancient race, there was still a chance for him to fight back. That being said, Luli only had the dragon wings and nothing else changed. What was more, he didn't have the domineering energy of the ancient races. There was no difference between having the dragon wings and not having them. The only difference was that he was faster. The battlefield was only so big. No matter how fast they were, they could only fight with their lives on the line. Therefore, even though Lu Li seemed to be moving fast, it was meaningless. Mixed heaven blood eagles were not slow. Oof. The eagle god was stunned for a moment, and a trace of anger appeared on his face. He felt that he had been deceived. He did not sense any energy from ancient races on Lu Li. Lu Li was tricking him. He flapped his wings and chased after Lu Li. The shield was only so big, so Lu Li had no way to dodge. The god of Hawk caught up with him. His hands turned into claws and reached for Lu Li's arms. The 1,000 transformations cauldron in Lu Li's hand changed into a huge iron rod. He exerted all his strength and smashed at God of Hawk. Boom! The iron rod and God of Hawk's claws collided. A surge of energy came through, numbing Lu Li's arms. He was knocked back for more than 100 feet, and so was God of Hawk. Whoosh! But God of Hawk didn't stop. He flew back quickly. Lu Li made up his mind and rushed forward. Once again, they fought fiercely. Both of them were knocked back. Boom, boom, boom. God of Hawk kept coming, and Lu Li smashed at him with the iron rod again and again. In a time for a few breaths, they had exchanged dozens of moves. Lu Li's chest was scratched twice. His chest was covered in blood. There were some wounds where his bones could be seen. Nice body, God of Hawk exclaimed after a pause. If Lu Li were a warrior at the third tribulation, he would have been killed by God of Hawk's claws. But Lu Li's bones were terrifyingly hard. God of Hawk's claws didn't even crack him, let alone crack him. You are not bad yourself. Lu Li spat out some blood. He looked awful. Just now, Lu Li also smashed at God of Hawk with the iron rod. He didn't even crack the scales on God of Hawk's shoulders. He only cracked them. Lu Li's physical strength was incredible. Average warriors at the peak of the third tribulation would not be able to stand it. It was not hard to imagine how strong God of Hawk's body was. Lu Li had chosen the path of a supreme immortal body, and he specialized in physical strength. This pure heaven blood hawk didn't seem to specialize in physical strength. How come his body was so strong? This was appalling. Whoosh! God of Hawk flew over again. Lu Li put away the cauldron of 1,000 transformations and punched at God of Hawk. He was not confident that he could defeat God of Hawk with his physical strength. He just wanted to create a false impression for God of Hawk that he was going to fight till the end. God of Hawk's claws were powerful, but his bones were hard after they turned black. As long as God of Hawk could not crack his bones, Lu Li would not die anytime soon. He needed to buy enough time for Blood Fairy to build the plaza with runes. God of Hawk sneered. He flapped his wings and dashed toward Lu Li. Lu Li was not afraid at all. They began to fight with their physical strength. God of Hawk clawed at Lu Li, and Lu Li punched at him. They would be separated and then tangled together again. Muffled noises could be heard constantly. The warriors outside were nervous. They did not care about Lu Li's life or death. What they cared about was their icy heart crystals, their divine stones and treasures. If Lu Li lost, they would lose everything. When they saw that Lu Li was covered in blood and soon, he was covered in blood and the air was filled with blood, they felt their hearts were weighed down. Lu Li had punched God of Hawk many times. However, apart from some scales falling off and some blood coming out from God of Hawk's mouth, Lu Li did not inflict much harm. Comparing the two, it was clear who was better. Pure Heaven Bloodhawk's physical strength is just average. What they're good at is the chaotic hole between their eyebrows. Their ray of chaotic hole can destroy everything. an old warrior who had gone through 4 trials sighed. God of Hawk could defeat Lu Li without using the Ray of Chaotic Hole. Once the Ray of Chaotic Hole was activated, Lu Li would be crushed into pieces in an instant. Where's Lu Li's move? Why isn't he using it? Someone shouted in confusion. The formation of illusion built by Blood Fairy was powerful. She had used it in the previous fights. Many believe that Lu Li had won because of this formation of illusion. Buzzing a moment later, the shield was covered in mist. Dragons of lightning were roaring, dragons of fire were roaring, and dragons of earth were moving in and out. Finally, Blood Fairy was done. She had built 3 plaza with runes, and they were activated at the same time. Nice! Many people outside were excited. Finally, Lu Li was going to use this move. It seemed that there was a chance to turn the tables. Chapter 2153. Blood Fairy had built 3 dojos. One was a formation of illusion. One could seal off energy to prevent the energy from leaking out, and the last one could launch soul attacks. As soon as the 3 dojos were activated, God of Hawk felt the pressure. He directly ignored the illusion. He casually sensed it and knew that it had no destructive power. The soul attack had brought him some trouble. What he was concerned about was the dojos that had sealed off the battlefield. The dojos did not have any offensive power, and there was nothing strange about them. They could not inflict any harm on him. However, as soon as the dojos were activated, God of Hawk felt he had lost contact with the outside world. He felt he was sealed in a small world. Even the space was blocked. He could not get out. Lu Li would not do useless things. He would not waste so much effort to build something fancy and scary. This divine rune dojo must have its uses. As for what it was, God of Hawk did not know. That was why he was panicking. It was like dark clouds were looming over a city. There was no storm, but it was suffocating. Charge! A glint of ferocity rose in God of Hawk's eyes. He decided not to hide his abilities anymore. Lu Li had made him feel threatened. He must end the fight quickly before anything else happened. The glory of the mixed heaven blood eagle could not be blasphemed. Now that he had revealed his identity, he must win. Whoosh! God of Hawk was enveloped in golden flames again. His claws glowed. He dashed toward Lu Li like a sharp sword and reached for Lu Li's head. God of Hawk had burned the origin blood eagle's blood to strengthen his body for a short time. He wanted to kill Lu Li in one move. The order given to him was not to win, but to kill Lu Li. Go to hell, Lu Li bellowed. He was covered in blood. Combined with the killing intent, he looked ferocious and horrifying. He took out the cauldron of 1,000 transformations and turned it into a piece of iron. He used all his strength to smash at God of Hawk. God of Hawk sneered. He reached for the cauldron of 1,000 transformations with one hand and reached for Lu Li's hand with the other. His claw and the cauldron of 1,000 transformations collided. Lu Li's hand trembled. He could not hold on to the cauldron of 1,000 transformations anymore, and it was knocked away. Gotcha! On the other side, one of Lu Li's hands was caught by Hawk God. His claws were glistening with golden light. This time, Lu Li's hand was easily crushed. The eagle god was taken aback. Even though his physical body had been strengthened, it shouldn't have been this strong. Lu Li's bones were very hard. How could he crush Lu Li's bones so easily? Lu Li cried out miserably. Another piece of iron plate appeared in his other hand, and he smashed it at Hawk God. The eagle deity glanced at it and did not pay it any mind. This piece of metal was exactly the same as the one the 1,000 transformations cauldron had transformed into. He thought that it was a similar artifact. He was still wondering why Lu Li's defense had weakened so much. He was bewildered for a moment, but immediately reacted. His claws frantically clawed down. I'll take your life while you're down. Eagle God's battle experience was not bad, but he didn't know why Lu Li's defense had dropped so drastically. But how could he not seize such an opportunity? His claws moved forward, trying to claw Lu Li to death. A glint of cruelty rose in Lu Li's eyes. He let the eagle god crush his hand on purpose. He didn't even use the energy in his acupoints to protect himself. He deliberately distracted the eagle god so that his sneak attack could be successful. Just now, he used the 1,000 transformations cauldron to transform into the shape of the iron plate to confuse the eagle god as well. This ancient god was too powerful. Luli only had one chance. If he could not kill the eagle god in one move, he would be doomed eternally. Luli knew that the eagle god had not used his most horrifying move yet. He had never used that black vertical eye. Just one look at that eye made Luli's heart tremble. The ancient gods must have some special skills. This must be their special skill. Luli didn't want to give the eagle god any more chances. Buzzing. The iron plate was only 1 foot away from the eagle god. Luli's arm was half broken as well. Madness rose in Luli's eyes as he shouted, "Eagle god, go to hell." Buzzing, the iron plate glowed. Divine energy surged into Luli's body, and a surge of divine energy was released. The power of the iron plate was already horrifying. Now that Luli had more divine energy, he could use it at full power. The divine energy was much stronger than before. The eagle god's entire body trembled, and a sense of life-threatening danger surfaced in his soul. His eyes widened as he stared intently at the godly metal, and an expression of shock appeared on his face. Shard of holy weapon. As a member of the ancient god race, Eagle God knew holy weapons all too well. Back in the days, his race had a holy emperor's divine weapon, which was shattered. The surviving warriors of his race had several shards of holy weapon. He is dead. This thought emerged in his soul. He only had 6 wings, so his combat power was not too strong. If it was an 8-winged marbled sky blood eagle, he might have a chance to block it, but with his strength, he definitely could not block it. At this moment, Eagle God finally understood why Luli had to build a plaza to seal off the battlefield. Luli was afraid that his divine energy would leak out and others would know that he had shards of holy weapon. Let's die together. At the dying moment, God of Hawk could no longer hold back. The chaos hole in his eyes glowed. A surge of horrifying chi and energy came out from the chaos hole. Even Luli's soul was trembling. He sensed a sense of fatal danger. Boom! Unfortunately, Eagle God's reaction was too late. He did not have the time to release the light of chaos. Luli's iron plate landed on Eagle God's head. Eagle God's head exploded and turned into a mist of blood. Before Eagle God's head exploded, a ray of dark light came out from the chaotic hole. Even though it was only a tiny bit, it had shredded Luli's shoulder. Luli only had half an arm left. Now, he had become a one-armed warrior. His right shoulder was gone as well. It was a tragic sight. Phew. Luli breathed heavily. The light of chaos was horrifying. It was just a tiny bit. If the entire light of chaos were to be released, he would have been minced into pieces. He put away the godly metal, then ordered Blood Fairy to dismantle the divine inscription dojo and erase all traces of the original setup. After this fight, Luli would never go to a duel again. The plaza built by Blood Fairy was quite good. Those outside could not see what was going on inside. The might of the divine weapon was concealed as well. Only the 2 warriors at the 4th tribulation sensed something strange, but they were not sure. They only knew that some powerful move must have been used. After the plaza was dismantled, the scene inside was exposed to everyone. Everyone was dumbfounded. They could not believe what they saw when they saw Eagle God's head was smashed. The 6-winged blood eagle was invincible in the 3rd tribulation. How could an unknown warrior at the 2nd tribulation kill him? Even though they had seen it with their own eyes, they still could not believe it. What? Master 2 dropped the teacup in his hand when he received the report. After a moment of surprise, he was panic-stricken. Chapter 2154. What to do? Patriarch 2 paced up and down in the room. Even though God of War was with him, it didn't mean that he was with him. It would be fine if God of War didn't reveal his identity. He was dead, so be it, but he had been exposed in the fight. Thousands of people knew that Heaven Blood Eagle died at the arena. How could he hide it? The Heaven Blood Eagle race was wiped out years ago. Only a small part of them managed to escape. Later on, the Heaven Blood Eagle race never thrived again. They rarely went out and almost disappeared. Disappearing didn't mean that the Heaven Blood Eagle race had declined. Patriarch 2 knew that there were still many powerful warriors in the Heaven Blood Eagle race. The top warriors of the race were still powerful and horrifying. It was just that their numbers were fewer. Because of the small number of the Heaven Blood Eagle race, every one of them was precious. Once the powerful warriors of their race learned about what happened here, they would come and punish them. Patriarch 2 seemed to be enjoying a good life in the Ice Ceiling Valley, but that was only in the Ice Ceiling Valley. Outside, he was nothing. Any powerful warrior of the Heaven Blood Eagle would be pushed out by the Sun family so that the Heaven Blood Eagle could vent its anger. Rustle, rustle, rustle. From outside came some footsteps. A black-robed warrior came in and whispered to Patriarch 2. Patriarch 2, that god of massacre, has sent someone here. He said he wants 30,000 Ice Heart crystals worth of divine stones. Boom! Patriarch 2 was about to lose his mind. He slapped the table, and the expensive table was smashed. He said with killing intent in his eyes, he wants divine stones? Is he courting death? Well, take him down. Patriarch 2 thought of a way to take Luli down. When the powerful warriors of the Heaven Blood Eagle race came, they could send Luli out. At least, they could give an explanation, and the punishment wouldn't be so severe. Patriarch 2 calmed down. Noticing the killing intent in Patriarch 2's eyes, the black-robed warrior reminded, "That punk is outside now. If we take him down, he will put up a desperate fight. By then, something big will happen. Even if we want to take him down, we must do it secretly." Okay, Patriarch 2 calmed down. After all, Luli was acting for him. What was more, Luli was an unruly man. If Patriarch 2 were to take Luli down now, it would be a mess. He would lose his position as the banker. "Give it to him." The second master waved his hand and said coldly, "Give him the God Stone and send people to keep an eye on them. Report to me immediately if they leave the valley. I'll go see Lord Sunyu." The second old master left in a hurry. The black-robed martial artist walked out and threw a ring at Gan Lin without saying a word. Gan Lin and Qin Zhan put away the ring and helped Lu Li to leave. Even though Lu Li was weak, he had been keeping his guard up, fearing that the deputy patriarch would act recklessly. If the second master acted recklessly, he would have no choice but to fight until the end. He would not let the second master have an easy time even if he died. Walking out of the arena, Lu Li looked into the sky and exhaled. This time, his opponent was too strong. He had walked on the line of life and death, but he had managed to survive. Sigh. Back at the cave, Lu Li didn't tend to his wounds right away. His expression was solemn. Gan Lin asked with a frown, "Lu Li, didn't you win? Why do you look so distressed?" Qin Zhan, however, saw some clues. He said, "Lu Li has won, but I'm afraid the road ahead will not be easy for us." "Yes," Lu Li nodded and said, "This time, the second old master is trying to trick us. His opponent is too strong. He wanted to kill me. You saw the bets. This time, the second old master has lost a lot. He didn't even see me. You can imagine how furious he must be." That's true. Gan Lin's expression turned awful. It was said that the second old master had a relationship with the warriors of the Ice Valley. Could they still leave the valley? Would they be hunted down after they left the valley? He thought about it and asked anxiously, "Then what should we do? Will we leave the Ice Valley?" "Don't worry." Lu Li thought about it and said, "We can't leave the valley at will now. My wounds are too serious. Any warrior at the peak of the third tribulation can kill us. I will tend to my wounds first. You don't go out as much as you can. Qin Zhan, you can ask around. Let's talk about it when I am better." Okay. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin nodded. They knew the seriousness of the matter. This was not the second heaven. There was no one to protect them here. One careless move, and they would die without a burial place. Lu Li sat with his legs crossed to tend to his wounds. One of his hands was disabled. He would need at least a month to fully recover. He also had to cultivate divine energy. After using the relic iron once, he didn't have much divine energy left. Qin and Gan didn't go out either. 5 days later, Qin went out to ask around. He came back after a day, but he didn't get much information. The second old master didn't do anything unusual. The battleground was still lively. The gamblers gambled every day without any trouble. That being said, Qin did find out about the pure heaven blood eagle race in one day. The more he knew, the heavier his heart was. The 10 ancient holy races. In ancient times, there were tens of thousands of races in the third heaven. Powerful warriors of many races from countless universes came up to compete for hegemony in this land. After countless bloody battles, the 10 holy races were born. They were the 10 most powerful races recognized by the third heaven. The pure heaven blood eagle race was one of them. The pure heaven blood eagle race had declined and was almost exterminated. Only some of its members managed to escape. But after so many years of recuperation, the pure heaven blood eagle race should have recovered some strength. Even if they had recovered some strength, this race was still horrifying. It could be seen from God of Blood Eagle's abilities. If the pure heaven blood eagle race knew that Luli had killed God of Blood Eagle, he would be doomed no matter where he went. Luli hadn't come out yet. Qin didn't want to disturb him. The situation had come to this. He had to take it one step at a time. Qin stayed in the cave for 7 or 8 days. Then he went out again to ask around. The second old master gave him 3 million divine stones. Some divine stones were enough for Qin to bribe many people and get a lot of information. Qin was the future family patriarch of the Qin family. It was easy for him to ask around. This time, he went out for 3 days before he came back. He looked worse and worse. I think it will be hard for us to leave. The first thing he said after he came and made Ganlin's pupil's contract. Ganlin sighed and said, "Second old master has sent someone to monitor us nearby. I think we will be hunted down as soon as we leave the valley. The death of the pure heaven blood eagle has put second old master in a passive position. If we stay and the powerful warriors of the pure heaven blood eagle race come, the frozen valley and second old master will definitely hand Luli over. Leave, hunted down. If they stay, they might be handed over." Qin didn't know what to do. Ganlin was so worried that his eyebrows were knitted. They were too weak. They were at the bottom of the third heaven. Even if they had hundreds of plans, they couldn't make bricks without straw. Luli's wounds had recovered. His arm had grown back, but not completely. He had almost cultivated divine energy. He would come out in 3 or 4 days at most. 5 days later, Luli came out. Seeing the 2 men with worried faces, he grinned and said, "Don't be so pessimistic. I, Luli, have 9 lives. I will not die easily. Tell me, what have you got?" Chapter 2155. Luli had learned a lot from Qin's few words. His years of experience made him realize that if they stayed any longer, they would be in big trouble. The Heaven's Blood Eagle race was too powerful. The news couldn't be kept a secret. If there were powerful warriors of the Heaven's Blood Eagle race nearby, or if the Blood Eagle race had special senses, then when the powerful warriors of the Heaven's Blood Eagle race came, Luli would die for sure. Even if the powerful warriors of the Heaven's Blood Eagle race didn't come, Luli would not let him go for making Lord 2 lose so many ice heart crystals. Therefore, they must leave as soon as possible. If they left now, they still had a chance of survival. If not, they would be doomed. Luli began to think about escape routes and strategies after he made up his mind. Qin and Ganlin, on the other hand, were getting impatient. Qin was the first to speak. "Luli, you are not a good friend. We said we would go with you, and you want to leave us behind? What kind of brothers are you?" Ganlin said with determination, "We will leave together or we won't." "Luli, don't you think you are underestimating us?" "That's not what I meant." Luli waved his hand and said, "I caused the trouble. I cannot let you take the risk with me. What's more, it is more convenient for me to go alone. You know how fast I am. I am much faster than before. Average warriors at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation cannot catch up with me." Luli looked at the nearby map, pointed to a city, and said, "Let's meet at this city." This is not the territory of the Sun family. Even if Lord Tu has a backer in the Sun family, he can't reach here. Qin Zhan, Gom Lin, don't say any more. It is not that there is no risk for you to go separately. This arrangement is to minimize the risk. Don't worry. I, Lu Li, have been in more dangerous situations than this many times in my life. I will not die. Lu Li's eyes were filled with determination. His tone was unquestionable, even a bit overbearing. Gom Lin took a look, sighed, and said nothing more. Qin Zhan refuted. What do you mean by you caused a trouble? Aren't you trying to earn ice heart crystals for us? Lu Li, if we are brothers, then don't talk like this. We should share blessings and sorrows. This is what it means to be brothers. Qin Zhan, stop talking. Lu Li waved his hand again. The interspatial ring on his hand glowed as he took out 1.5 million divine stones and gave them to them. Be careful on your way. If you have no other choice, surrender. Even if you're captured, you still have a chance to survive. If I get caught, you guys will have a chance to save me in the future, right? If you get caught, I'll think of a way to save you, understand? All right. Qin Zhan sighed and said no more. Lu Li got up and walked outside. He explained at the door, I will go and see Master Tu. I need to calm him down so that we can escape. Lu Li walked all the way to the arena. He found the black-robed chief steward and asked to see the second master. The second old master was in the dueling grounds. When the black-robed cultivator came in to report, the second old master's eyes spewed fire, and the cup in his hand shattered once again. Lu Li's killing of God of Hawk had brought him a lot of trouble. It had been a torment for him for a short period of time. The big shot behind him said that he had better pray that the powerful warriors of the pure Heaven Blood Eagle race wouldn't know about this. If the powerful warriors of the pure Heaven Blood Eagle race came to him, there was an 80% chance that he would die. Of course, the one behind him did help him block off the information. For now, the information should not be leaked out. But if the warriors of the pure Heaven Blood Eagle race sensed it and came to him themselves, then he would be in more trouble. During this time, he had been living in a constant state of anxiety and anxiety. Now, Lu Li had come to him. This made him furious. If it were not for the fact that he was worried about the impact, he would have slapped Lu Li to death. No, tell him to get lost. Master Tu waved his hand in annoyance. The black-robed warrior hesitated for a bit and said he is willing to fight some more to make amends. Fight some more to make amends? Ha. Master Tu sneered and said, can he afford to make amends? How can he be scared? Well, let him in. Thinking of making amends, Master Tu had an idea. He was going to kill Lu Li. It was just a matter of time. He was keeping Lu Li alive because he was waiting for the powerful warriors of the pure Heaven Blood Eagle race to come to him. But before he died, it would be nice to ask Lu Li to earn some ice heart crystals and divine stones for him. Last time, he suffered a great loss. Soon, Lu Li walked in. Master Tu sat on the lion chair with his legs crossed, like a ferocious tiger. He was trying his best to suppress his anger, but his momentum was still horrifying. Lu Li felt depressed. Master Tu was at the fourth tribulation realm. Lu Li didn't know exactly how powerful he was, but since he could be the banker here, he must not be a weakling. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to control the situation. Master Tu was still the same as before. He stared at Lu Li without saying anything. Silence was more terrifying than speaking. Lu Li exhaled. His face was filled with fear. He bowed and said, Second Master. Master Tu snorted but still said nothing. Lu Li thought about it and said, Master Tu, I've been thinking about it recently. I think I took too many divine stones last time. So, I want to fight 3 more rounds. It doesn't matter whether I win or lose this time. Master Tu, if you want me to lose, I will lose. If you want me to win, I will win. Lu Li put on a good performance. He successfully made Master Tu think that he was afraid and wanted to fight 3 more rounds to make up for his mistake so that Master Tu wouldn't kill him. Lu Li didn't mention the fight with Eagle God. Master Tu pretended not to know that Master Tu wanted to kill him. After a moment of silence, he nodded and said, Okay, 3 more rounds then. But as long as you listen to my orders, I will still pay you. 3 more rounds, and I will give you 10,000 ice heart crystals. Master 2 clearly wanted to keep Lu Li. For one thing, he could help Lu Li make money. For another, he could stay in the Ice Heart Valley. In this way, if Lu Li needed to go out and take the blame, he could hand him over at any time. Thank you, Master 2. Lu Li was overjoyed. He bowed deeply and asked, Master 2, when do I go? Don't worry. Master 2 waved his hand and said, You can go now. I will arrange for someone to inform you later. Yes. Lu Li left and went back to the cave. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin came up to him. Lu Li gave him a brief explanation and added, I will leave in a few days. Qin Zhan, do you know anyone who could disguise themselves? If so, tell him to disguise himself as me with the divine flower stone to attract attention. Yes. Qin Zhan thought about it and said, Lu Li, do you remember old Gue? He is proficient in disguise and can be bought over easily. Okay, go and arrange it. Lu Li waved his hand and made a decision. I will leave in 3 days. Tell old Gue to disguise himself as me and go around the valley. Half a day after I leave, you must leave immediately. Otherwise, when Master 2 finds out that I have left, he will probably send someone to detain you. Okay, don't worry. We will act according to circumstances. Chapter 2156. It was easy to bribe Patriarch Gue. Patriarch Gue agreed at once when he heard that Lu Li could earn 100,000 divine stones by walking around in the valley as Lu Li. 3 days later, Lu Li made his move. He did not go out directly. Instead, he went into the mine. He knew that he was being followed, and he must get rid of the stalker first. The stalker was strong. He was not strong, but his psychic power must be strong. Lu Li activated the trace of Tao. He could faintly feel that gentle breeze lingering around him. He would not be able to tell if he did not sense it carefully. Even if he did, he would not be able to tell who was following him. Lu Li went into the mine and dashed down for 3,000 miles. He found the place where he and Patriarch Gue had agreed to meet. Down there, he saw another Lu Li, almost identical. Patriarch Gue was good at disguising. Help me change my appearance. Then walk around in the mine for half a day, and you can go and get the rest of the divine stones. Lu Li said. Patriarch Gue took out a kind of potion and handed it to Lu Li. Put it on the place where you want to change your appearance. The potion will only last for half a day. After that, it will be useless. Also, after you change your appearance, you may not be able to hide from powerful warriors. It will be up to your luck. Understood. Lu Li nodded. He smeared the potion on his face. Soon, he became a burly man. He put on a black armor and dashed toward the other tunnels. A moment later, Lu Li went into the wicked bead and flew inside. Even if the stalker could keep track of him, he would not be able to follow Lu Li after he entered the wicked bead. When Lu Li flew around in the wicked bead for a while, the stalker would have to search around. In the end, the stalker might find Lu Li in disguise. Of course, it was not for certain. If the stalker was good enough to see through Patriarch Gue's disguise and followed him all the way, then there would be nothing Lu Li could do. Lu Li had asked Patriarch Gue to disguise as him. He didn't care whether the disguise was useful or not. He flew the wicked bead around for the time, for 1 incense stick to burn, and then rushed up. Lu Li was lucky. He flew for 3,000 miles and only met 2 warriors who were average warriors at the initial stage of the third tribulation. They were frightened to see the wicked bead coming. Not to mention attacking, they were scared away. Lu Li dashed out from the wicked bead and went back into the mountain. He flew the mountain for dozens of miles before he came out and dashed up. All right, that's it. While running, Lu Li used the trace of Tao to sense. He was overjoyed to find that the barely discernible presence around him was gone. He rushed upward as fast as he could. When he rushed through a mine, a cold snort came from there, and then a white light flew over. It was actually a sword chi. There was an old man in the mine. Lu Li's reckless running seemed to have angered the old man. The old man attacked Lu Li without saying anything. How could Lu Li be in a mood to fight with this old man? He turned around with the unfettered steps and quickly retreated from the other tunnel. The old man chased after Luli, but he didn't dare to go after Luli after sensing how fast he was. Because Luli was running at the top of his speed, he ran into many people and was attacked by several of them. That being said, he didn't fight anyone. Relying on his speed, he ran away directly. Twice, he survived 2 attacks and escaped. Luli dashed out of the mine and walked toward a castle in the valley. It was impossible to walk out of the valley. He had to take teleportation formations to get out. When he arrived at the castle, the 2 escorts threw him a glance but didn't mind. There was a chief steward in the castle who didn't say anything when he saw Luli. Luli took out an interspatial ring and said with respect, "Lord, I want to leave the valley. There are so many people in a valley of ice, and some would come and go from the outside." The chief steward didn't mind. He took over the ring and saw that there were enough ice heart crystals. He gave Luli an ID jade talisman and said, "Okay, you are free now. Go to the side chamber and teleport out." Luli walked to the side chamber at once. There was a teleportation formation guarded by 2 powerful warriors, both at the peak of the 3rd tribulation. Luli took the white jade talisman. The 2 warriors didn't say anything. They just activated the teleportation formation. After a flash of white light, Luli appeared in a barren land. He looked at the mountains behind him that reached the sky, but he didn't seem to be happy. He took a deep breath, took out a jade talisman, and crushed it. He released his dragon wings and rushed toward the northwest as fast as he could. He was out of the valley smoothly, but it didn't mean he was safe. It was half a day's journey from the near city. Luli believed that Patriarch 2 would come to his senses soon, and there would be pursuers. What was more, it wasn't necessarily safe to go into the cities because the Sun family's territory was nearby. The Sun family was powerful, but it didn't mean that they were willing to offend the pure heaven blood eagle race. Therefore, the Sun family wouldn't be happy to see Luli running away. On the off chance that some big shots of the Sun family said something, all the armies in the nearby cities would search for him. Therefore, Luli didn't want to go to the nearest city. He wanted to go to the big city in the northwest. Patriarch 2 and the others would think that he was going to a small city. When Patriarch 2's men couldn't find him in the small city, it would be too late for them to come back. Luli could take advantage of the time difference, and the possibility of him running away would be greater. Whoosh! He released his dragon wings and used the happy steps. His speed was at the top. He was several times faster than before. Average warriors of the 4th tribulation realm couldn't catch up with him. In just a few blinks, he had vanished into the distance. Okay, after Luli crushed the jade talisman, another jade talisman in Qinzhan's hand broke. Qinzhan and Ganlin were filled with smiles. This was the signal they had agreed upon with Luli. The breaking of the jade talisman meant that Luli had left the valley successfully. Now that Luli had escaped, the pressure on Qinzhan and Ganlin would be relieved. Patriarch 2's target was Luli. It was Luli who killed the pure heaven blood eagle race. Even if Patriarch 2 captured them, he wouldn't be able to answer to the pure heaven snow eagle race. Therefore, when Patriarch 2 got the news, he would go after Luli at once. Nobody would pay attention to Qinzhan and Ganlin. Qinzhan and Ganlin didn't go out. They waited quietly in the cave. They prayed that Patriarch 2 would find out later. The later Patriarch 2 found out, the safer Luli would be and the safer they would be. Whoosh! 4 hours later, a man dashed into the cave. Qinzhan thought it was Patriarch 2's men. He didn't expect that it was Patriarch Gue. "We need to leave now." As soon as Patriarch Gue came in, he said with a bitter expression, "This time, I have been tricked by you. I didn't know that Luli had escaped from the valley. Patriarch 2 has gone after him in person. If we don't leave now, none of us will be able to leave. Patriarch 2 has taken action." Qinzhan put on a bitter smile. He didn't expect that Patriarch 2 would take action so soon. Luli was still in great danger. Ganlin looked at Patriarch Gue coldly and said, "We are us, and you are you. Why should I go with you? Why do we have to separate ourselves from you now?" Patriarch Gue said as if he had just lost his father, "I helped you disguise as Luli. Now, Patriarch 2 has regarded me as one of you. I have to go with you now. Chapter 2157. Seventh didn't expect that Luli would leave. He had been paying attention to the casino. There was news from the casino that Luli was going to fight again. This was the strategy of the casino. They wanted to build momentum in advance so that the experienced gamblers would have a sense of expectation. When Luli went on, he would place a heavy bet and they could win back what they had lost. Seventh thought that Luli was going to fight, so he didn't expect that Luli would leave. Seventh thought that Luli wouldn't be able to leave even if he wanted to. Even if Luli did leave, he would still die. It would take him half a day to reach the city after leaving the frozen valley. He didn't expect that Luli would leave so decisively. He didn't even take care of his friends and left by himself. This was a trap for Seventh because Seventh would think that he was on Luli's side. His fighting ability was not that strong. It would be as easy as crushing an ant for Seventh to crush him. Therefore, after much consideration, Seventh decided to go with Ganlin and Qinjian. For one thing, their fighting abilities were not bad, so they could look after each other. For another, he could slip away at critical moments. The enemies would target Qinjian and Ganlin, so it was more likely that he could run away. Qinjian was in deep thoughts. There were some advantages to staying with Seventh. First, Seventh was strong. Second, he knew the situation nearby. Now that he had offended Seventh, he was on the same side as them. It was a good idea to bring him along. Ganlin, on the other hand, snorted unhappily. Bring you along? Who knows if you will sell us out or not? Seventh said speechlessly. What can I get out of selling you out? If I want to, I can ask Seventh to sell you out right now. Cut the crap. Are you leaving or not? If not, I will go alone. If not, none of us will be able to leave. Very soon, Seventh will come to his senses and send a message to detain us. Let's go. Qinjian waved his hand and said, Seventh, let's go together. But I hope you understand that we are in this together. Don't be narrow-minded, or we will fight you to the death. Okay. Seventh nodded. The three of them walked out of the cave and rushed into the castle. Luli gave each of them 10,000 ice heart crystals. The three of them went to the side chamber at once. It was a smooth journey. The three of them got out of the valley without a hitch. Master Tu went after Luli with his men, but he didn't expect the three of them. Therefore, he didn't ask the big shots of the ice-ceiling valley to detain the three of them. The three of them got out easily. Where are we going? As soon as he came out, Qinjian looked at Old Sixth, but the latter didn't answer. Instead, he asked, which way did Death God Lu escape to? I have no idea. Of course, Qinjian wouldn't be so stupid as to tell them Luli's whereabouts. He said, Luli left in a hurry. He left without saying anything. We don't know where he went. Then let's go this way, to Azure Phoenix City. Patriarch Gui thought about it and pointed to a direction. It was the route Luli took. He explained, we cannot go to the Ice Mountain City. Patriarch Tu and the others are probably coming this way. Luli, the god of massacre, might have gone to the Ice Mountain City as well. If we go there, we will be walking into a trap. The Ice Mountain City was the closest city to the Ice Mountain Valley. Patriarch Gui was familiar with the surrounding area, and he was smart. He chose the same route as Luli. Qinjian and Ganlin were embarrassed. The route they had discussed with Luli was to go to the Taiyan City on the other side. Qinjian took out the map after some thoughts and said, then we might as well go to the Taiyan City on the south and take a detour. It will be safer. Sure. Patriarch Gui waved his hand without hesitation and said, we can go anywhere as long as we don't go to the Ice Mountain City. Let's go. Let's get out of here first. The three of them sped up to the extreme. They went around the Ice Mountain Valley and rushed towards the south. In the time for a few breaths, they had disappeared into the distance. Patriarch Tu was enraged. He brought more than a dozen warriors with him and rushed toward the Ice Mountain City. He and two warriors of the Fourth Tribulation Realm went ahead of Luli. They wanted to arrive at the Ice Mountain City earlier and stop Luli. Patriarch Tu sent a man to track Luli, but he didn't expect Luli to escape. What was more, Luli went to the arena and promised to fight for Patriarch 2 for 3 rounds. Patriarch 2 was careless. He didn't tell someone to guard the exit of the valley, which allowed Luli to get away. More importantly, Patriarch 2 thought Luli wouldn't dare to leave. After all, it would take him half a day to get to the city. Luli would have concerns in the Ice Mountain Valley, but once he was out, killing people would be as easy as killing dogs. Luli didn't leave for some time. He was troubled by the matter of the pure heaven-blood eagle race, and he was careless. As soon as Luli ran away, Patriarch 2 panicked. When the powerful warriors of the pure heaven-blood eagle race arrived, they asked him where the person who killed God Eagle was. Did he say he had run away? He was afraid that the powerful warriors of the pure heaven-blood eagle race would kill him right away. He sprinted all the way, his body filled with dense, killing intent. After sprinting for more than 4 hours, he suddenly stopped. The 2 warriors of the fourth tribulation next to him were surprised. One of them asked, "Patriarch 2, what is it? Do you think Luli won't go to the Ice Mountain City?" Patriarch 2's eyes flickered as he asked. Then one of them murmured, "He has been planning this for a long time. He even found someone to disguise as him." If so, why would he run to the Ice Mountain City like an idiot? That makes sense. An old warrior of the fourth tribulation nodded and said, "There are 4 cities near the Ice Mountain Valley. We cannot just go one way. He is not that strong. Any one of us can kill him." Patriarch 2, how about we split up and go after him? Split up. Patriarch 2 nodded and said, "Brother Lu, you go to the Cyan Phoenix City. Brother Yang, you go to the Tian City. Also, I will send a message to He Yang and ask them to send some warriors to the Zhonglong City." Okay. The other 2 warriors of the fourth tribulation nodded. Luli was only at the second tribulation realm. His comprehensive abilities should be at the peak of the third tribulation. As long as the 3 of them could catch up with him, it would be easy for them to capture or kill Luli. You 2 remember this. Patriarch 2 said, "As soon as you find Luli, send someone to send a message. If you catch up with him, try to capture him alive. If they couldn't capture him alive, they would kill him and bring his corpse back. If this punk has run away, we will all die when the powerful warriors of the Blood Eagle race find us." We understand. The old warrior of the fourth tribulation nodded and said, "He cannot go far. Even if he is in the city, given our relationship with the Sun family, we can still kill him in the city. Patriarch 2, if he really has run away, tell the Sun family and ask them to track him down." Okay. Patriarch 2 waved his hand. The 2 of them went off in different directions. Patriarch 2, on the other hand, went on to the Ice Mountain City. He was so fast. It would take someone half a day to get to the Ice Mountain City, but he only needed a couple of hours. However, as time went on, he became more and more depressed. He didn't find any clues along the way, nor did he see Luli, which meant that Luli really didn't go to the Ice Mountain City. 4 hours later, he finally stood at the gate of the Ice Mountain City. He was familiar with the commander of the army here. He made sure that Luli didn't come to the Ice Mountain City after some random questions. This punk is good at running away. Chapter 2158. When Patriarch 2 arrived at the Ice Mountain City, Luli was about to arrive at the Cyan Phoenix City. He arrived 4 hours earlier than Patriarch 2. The Cyan Phoenix City was further away than the Ice Mountain City. But Luli was faster than average fourth tribulation warriors. He was only an hour away from the Cyan Phoenix City. The closer he was to the city, the more nervous he was. If the army in the city received the news, he would be captured as soon as he entered the city. Once that happened, nobody would be able to save him. He did run into some people along the way, but he didn't run into any powerful ones. Given his speed, average warriors wouldn't have the courage to attack him. An hour later, in the distance, a huge city stood on the ground like a beast. A surge of vicissitude spread out. Clearly, the city was very old. Luli wondered how many tens of thousands of years it had been in existence. The city looked similar to the second heaven. The only difference was that there should be a formation for gathering spirits in the city. Looking from the distance, Luli could see that the city was covered in mist, giving the impression that it was a city of immortals. Iron ships slowly floated above the city. On those iron ships, there were soldiers dressed in gorgeous armor. They looked like heavenly soldiers and generals. Luli didn't fly into the city rashly. He put on his dragon wings, put on an armor, and covered his head. Then he walked toward the city gate with his chi and energy contained. There were 10 warriors standing at the gate. They were not powerful. They were at the third tribulation. Their leader should be at the peak of the third tribulation. Luli's arrival caught the attention of the 10 warriors. They looked at him. Luli felt he was being cut by 10 knives. Luli was nervous, but his steps were steady. He strode toward the city. At the gate, an escort stopped Luli. Luli took out his jade talisman of the ice-sealing valley and then gave some divine stones to the warrior. The warrior put away the divine stones after taking a look at the jade talisman. He waved his hand without saying anything. Luli was relieved and strode in. The street was wide and paved with white jade. The castles and manors were beautiful, but there was a sense of vicissitude everywhere, giving people a sense of solemnity. There were many people of different races in the city. There were strange people, many of the demon race and other strange races. That being said, all the races were in the shape of humans. At best, they could keep some characteristics of their races. Many races had huge bodies, so it was impossible for them not to take human form. Otherwise, the city would not be able to contain them. There were still many purebred humans in the city. The third heaven belonged to the human race. In ancient times, tens of thousands of races contended for hegemony, and countless powerful races emerged. However, as time passed, the human race slowly occupied the dominant position. Although the ancient races had strong bodies and all kinds of strange abilities, they were no match for the human race. This was because the human race was the best at learning. They would constantly learn and improve, fighting against the heavens, fighting against the earth, fighting against the other races. They created all kinds of strange cultivation methods, learned to borrow the power of heaven and earth, and learned to strengthen their bodies. They created countless powerful cultivation methods, divine arts, and divine abilities, becoming the overlords of the third heaven. Almost all of the 10 ancient god clans had declined, and the other clans naturally couldn't achieve anything great. Fortunately, all the races in the third heaven lived together, and there was not much discrimination. Everyone was used to this situation. Previously, Luli had asked Xinjiang to find out about the third heaven, and he learned something from Patriarch Goe. Therefore, he was not surprised when he entered the city. He went directly to the north of the city, where there was a teleportation formation. He must leave the territory of the Sun family as soon as possible in order to be safe. Teleportation was expensive. He only had 1 million divine stones, and he gave the rest to Xinjiang and Gamlin. 1 million divine stones wouldn't be enough for him to teleport far, but his life was more important. He could earn more divine stones when he ran out, but he would lose everything if he lost his life. At the north of the city, Luli found the teleportation formation. He paid the divine stones and started. The army of the Sun family hadn't received the message, so nobody cared about him. Luli began to teleport again and again, but it took a long time. Every time he teleported, it would take an hour. The distance between the two cities was vast. This is not going to work. After more than a dozen teleportations, Luli felt a headache. It had been a long time. Patriarch 2 must have realized what was going on. He might ask the Sun family to start investigating Luli's whereabouts. For a big family, all the nearby cities belonged to them. If they wanted to track down a person, it would be a piece of cake. Once the orders were passed down, all the cities would be on high alert. It was very likely that he would be captured the moment he teleported over. Buzzing, Luli teleported another 5 times, and it had been more than 4 hours. When he stepped into the teleportation formation again, as soon as it was activated, he heard a shout from the distance. Lord Yu has given the order. All teleportation formations must stop for now. Luli's heart was weighed down. Was the Sun family finally taking action? Did Patriarch 2 ask the Sun family to take action? But he was glad that the teleportation formation had been activated and he had left the city. While he was teleporting, his heart was a little unsettled. Would a group of experts be waiting for him the moment he teleported over? If so, there would be nowhere for him to run. He might have killed God of Hawk, but he had a clear idea of his own abilities. If he could sneak up on a warrior of the Third Tribulation, he could kill him easily with the help of the mystical iron rod. If he were to encounter a warrior of the Fourth Tribulation, he might have a chance to kill him, but it would be more likely that he would be killed. Luli prayed to himself that the nearby cities hadn't received the order or that the Sun family hadn't begun to hunt him down. The white glare in Li's eyes finally disappeared. He stood in the teleportation formation and used psychic power at once. He was relieved to see that the warriors nearby didn't make any moves. Should I teleport again or leave the city? Luli was struggling. Teleporting would be faster. If he had 2 more days, he might have a chance to leave the territory of the Sun family. By then, he would be much safer. After all, fighting was forbidden in the city. Patriarch 2 would be killed if he dared to mess around. If the Sun family did take action, then Luli would be in big trouble. He would be captured after a few more teleportations. Then, what awaited him would be a miserable end. I can't gamble anymore. I need to leave the city. After some thoughts, Luli decided to leave the city. The wild was vast, and he was fast. He would have a better chance of survival if he left the city. This place was not far away from the territory of the Goof family. He could fly there in half a month. Since he had made up his mind, he didn't overthink and acted quickly. He walked out of the city quickly. When he was out of the city, he released his dragon wings and flew away in a blur. Luli's decision was correct. An hour after he left, a man teleported over with an order from an important figure of the Sun family. All the teleportation formations were stopped, and the warriors began to search for Luli. That man even brought a portrait of Luli. This man has just arrived. I think he has left the city. A warrior patted his head after taking a look at the portrait. A glint of coldness rose in the eyes of the messenger. He shouted, "Send someone to go after him. Don't kill him when you catch him. Stall him first. I will report to Patriarch 8. Orders were given. Battleships took off from the city, and teams of warriors were sent out. Nobody dared to be careless with Patriarch 8's orders. Over 10,000 warriors were sent out to search for Luli. Chapter 2159. The area Luli was a small city in the center of the Centa region, the Yellow Soil City. The Centa region was large, over 100 times larger than the Omen Island. Otherwise, it wouldn't take so long to teleport between the two cities. The terrain here was dominated by mountains. When Luli flew out of the city, he saw mountains everywhere. The mountains rose and fell without end in sight. He could have flown higher when he released his dragon wings. However, the haze in the sky made him feel dangerous. Therefore, he had to fly at a low altitude. There were some powerful beasts in the mountains. Many of them were alarmed by Luli. They roared and chased after him, but Luli was too fast. Those beasts were not powerful and could not catch up with him. Luli left from the south gate, but after he left the city, he flew toward the northwest. His destination was the Tianyang region in the northwest. There was a powerful lord there who was hostile to the Senna Lord. As long as Luli could reach the Tianyang region, he would be safe. After flying for 6 hours, Luli heard some noises coming from behind. Like a hedgehog, Luli felt like he was about to explode. He looked back and saw 3 black dots behind him. Clearly, they were 3 huge battleships. Those battleships are faster than me. Luli's pupils contracted in fear. Could it be that the pursuers were here? Or were they just passing by? Either way, Luli could not take the risk. In a split of a second, he took out the mountain and dashed in. Then, he turned the mountain into a pebble and dropped it into the mountains. The mountain was one of the 9 mysterious mountains. Usually, he would not use it for fear of being discovered. But now, he had no other choice. The wicked bead was too low level and could be seen through easily. The patterns on the 9 mysterious mountains were advanced. Average warriors would not be able to see through it if it turned into a regular stone. Whoosh! With 3 noises, 3 huge battleships came over. Many psychic powers were checking around, covering an area with a radius of 3 miles. They were doing a thorough search. Luli used the trace of Tao to check and prayed that he would not be discovered. He could sense many psychic powers were checking outside. Clearly, an army was searching for something. He had just left the city, and there was an army searching for him. If it wasn't for the fact that Luli was here to kill him, Luli would have swallowed the entire mountain. The Mountain of 9 Mirages did not disappoint Luli. It was Emperor Mu's treasure and possessed many miraculous abilities. It was a pity that the other 2 mountains were not found yet, or else they would be complete sovereign weapons. Countless divine wills swept over. Many of them scanned the divine mountain, but none of them sensed any strange aura. The sacred mountain had turned into an ordinary stone. Ordinary martial artists would not be able to tell that there was anything wrong with it. The 3 battleships whooshed away. Luli dashed out from the mountain. He looked awful. Since there were 3 warships searching for him, there would definitely be 30 or even 300 warships. Fortunately, he did not continue to teleport within the city. Otherwise, he would have been captured. The divine mountain might be able to avoid being searched once, but could it avoid being searched again? Luli was not sure. He thought for a while and continued to think. He was sure of one thing. As long as he was discovered and tracked, there would be an endless stream of experts descending upon him. Not to mention the experts of the Sun family. Even if the second master and the others came, he would definitely die. Therefore, he had to run. He must find a way to avoid being searched. The divine mountain was not safe. Luli thought about it. A moment later, he said to Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, can you build a divine rune that can isolate psychic power in an instant?" Blood Fairy's divine rune was impressive. If she could build a divine rune and have the protection of the divine mountain, Luli would be much safer. "Yes," Blood Fairy replied. "If it is a simple divine rune, it will be fine. It can isolate psychic power from average warriors." "Master, why are you doing this?" Luli gave a simple explanation to Blood Fairy. She replied at once, "Master, I don't think you should do it. A divine rune that is built in a hurry will have many flaws. It will be easier to find. Once the divine rune is found, it will be a self-confession." "You are right," Luli nodded. Once someone sensed the divine rune, then it would be a blatant lie. Even an idiot could tell there was a divine rune in the wilderness. He could not count on Blood Fairy. Was he going to have to rely on the divine mountain? The divine mountain was incomplete. There would be traces of emperor weapons. Once he encountered a powerful warrior, he would be able to sense it, which would put him in greater danger. The wicked bead was of a low level. Average warriors would be able to see through it. Luli was troubled. He knew that coming to the 3rd heaven would be dangerous. However, he did not expect to encounter such a situation as soon as he arrived. Roar! Just as Zhang Xian was deep in thought, a huge, ferocious beast appeared in front of him. It was a beast the size of a small mountain. It had blood-red eyes, shiny fur, long fangs, a pair of wings on its back, and sharp claws on its feet. The beast was charging at him from the wilderness. Luli was not in the mood to fight it. The beast seemed to be strong, but it was not strong. If Luli wanted to, he could kill it with one punch. Whoosh! Luli spread his wings and dashed into the distance in a blur. That beast chased for a while. Realizing that it could not catch up with Luli, the beast roared and flew back to its territory. Whoosh! However, a moment later, Luli came back. He stared at the beast and grinned. He remembered that when he just arrived at the 2nd heaven, he used a beast of primordial chaos to escape from Yanhong's pursuit. The beast was not strong, but its energy was strong. It could hide many things. If Luli could hide in the beast and in the mountain, he would be less likely to be discovered. The beast was large, but the mountain could fit in. If a battleship came, Luli could let the beast out and control the mountain to fly into his body. In this way, he would be less likely to be discovered. Who would know that he was hiding in an average beast? As long as the beast was not injured, no one would be suspicious. After all, there were too many beasts in the wilderness. Roar! The beast was enraged to see Lu Li coming back. It rushed over, roaring and opening its mouth, trying to swallow Lu Li. After a flash of white light, the ferocious beast was taken aback because Lu Li had flown into its mouth of his own accord. Beasts were similar to beasts of primordial chaos at the second heaven. They were not intelligent. The Xianxi in heaven and earth at the third heaven was richer. After years of cultivation, the beasts would be strong. Some of them could even be as powerful as a fourth or fifth tribulation god. This beast should be as powerful as a third tribulation warrior, but it was not intelligent. The beast was confused. Why was this human not following the rules? Lu Li had just left and came back. Now, he was offering himself as food. Roar! Soon, the beast was rolling on the ground. Lu Li released worms of the void to gnaw at the beast's body. Some worms of the void even entered the beast's soul. The beast sensed fatal danger. At the same time, Blood Fairy flew out from a mountain and began to have sex with the beast in a unique way. The beast was not intelligent, but it did have some. It knew very well that if it disobeyed the human's orders, it would die instantly. As a matter of fact, it was not difficult to control a beast. The difficult part was how to have sex with the beast. Without Blood Fairy, Lu Li could not have had sex with the beast. Naturally, he would not have tamed the beast. Let's go. Chapter 2160. Yellow Soil City was originally a small city that was inconspicuous in Senate territory. The city lord was a fourth tribulation warrior. The geographical location of this small city was not particularly good, so there were usually not many people here. But recently, this small city was especially lively. Second Master and the others teleported over immediately. Then, a few commanders from the Sun clan came, and all of them were fourth tribulation martial artists. Today, an elder actually came to the Sun family. The moment the eighth elder appeared, City Lord Sun Yuan was shocked. He was just a minor character in the Sun family. He had spent a lot of effort to obtain the position of City Lord. Usually, he didn't even have the chance to get close to an elder, not to mention that the eighth elder was an elder with real power in the Sun family. He felt bitter. Patriarch 8 must be here for that Lu Li. Patriarch 8 had cursed Lu Li for tens of thousands of times in his mind. Why did Patriarch 8 have to leave the city through him? Even the eighth elder had come. If things went wrong today, he would lose his position as the city lord. Sun Yuan greets eighth elder. He immediately led a group of people to welcome them. He knelt down on one knee and took the initiative to ask for forgiveness. Sun Yuan did not handle this matter well. Please punish me, eighth elder. Let's talk inside. The eighth elder didn't look old at all. He looked like a middle-aged man. He spoke with an expressionless face and led the two of them straight towards the city lord's mansion. Sun Yuan and the others immediately got up and followed. The group of people arrived at the city lord residence. The eighth elder entered but did not take a seat. Instead, he immediately asked, "Where is he? You still haven't found it?" The eighth elder was not angry, but his imposing manner frightened Sun Yuan. He and a group of people knelt down again. Sun Yuan said with a bitter face, "Most of the soldiers in the city have been mobilized. Second Master Yang of the Icebound Valley has also led people to chase after him, but there is no news yet. This person should have fled to the area of the nearby city. It had already been 10 days. It had been 10 days since Lu Li left the city. According to the information brought by Patriarch 2, Lu Li could be as fast as a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation. 10 days was more than enough for Lu Li to run far away. He had mobilized everyone he could and sent out hundreds of battleships. There was nothing he could do if he could not find Lu Li. It was not that he didn't try his best, but Lu Li was too good at running away. Tell me all the news from the past few days. Don't leave out any clues." The eighth elder said expressionlessly. Sun Yuan did not dare to hide anything. He told the eighth elder everything. This included the day Lu Li left the city, how many men he mobilized, where he went to search, and how he went about it. Besides that, Old Two and the others also reported all the clues they had found along the way. Sun Foam. A token appeared in the eighth elder's hand as he coldly said, "Go back to the family immediately and dispatch the scout hall. Mobilize all the forces of the Sun family to find God of Death, Lu. In addition, spread the news that we are offering 10 billion divine stones for Massacre God Lu's men, and the messenger will have to pay 100 million divine stones to spread the news about Massacre God Lu to the underground world." 10 billion? Sun Yuan and the others were shocked. 10 billion divine stones? What kind of person was this death god Lu? How could he make the eighth elder offer such a sky-high price? Sun Feng left, and so did the eighth elder. Sun Yuan couldn't help but feel curious, so he cupped his hands and asked, "Eighth elder, who is this god of death Lu? Why is he so valuable?" "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." Patriarch 8 glanced over coldly. Sun Yuan shrank back and didn't dare to say another word. Patriarch 8 didn't show much emotion on his face, but he was angry inside. Luli was not a big shot. If it were only about Old Two, he wouldn't even bother to ask. He would just give an order. Today, he came in person, mobilized the Sun Family Scout Hall, and offered 10 billion divine stones because someone sent a message. Inghu. He was the most powerful warrior of the Snow Eagle race at the Ziyang land. He sent someone over to say that his people died here, and he hoped the Sun family could give him an explanation. The Sun family was not afraid of Inghu, and God of Death, Lu, was not killed by the Sun family. But recently, the Sun family had been in conflict with the Heaven-Yang region. If the Snow Eagle race became their enemy, that would be troublesome. Luli was just a nobody. As long as they could capture him and send him to the Heaven Blood Eagle race, then everything would be fine. If worst came to worst, they could send Old Two over as well. Patriarch 8 didn't want to become enemies with the Heaven Blood Eagle race over such a trivial matter. As soon as Patriarch 8 gave his order, the entire center region became lively. Many elite scouts and warriors were sent out to search for Lu Li all over the world. Whoosh! Several more battleships flew over Lu Li's head. Lu Li hid inside the beasts. The mountain turned into a pebble and stayed inside the beasts. He was so nervous that he didn't even dare to breathe. He had been on the run for more than 10 days. The first 10 days were peaceful. With this beast, he successfully avoided the search of so many warriors. But recently, there were more warriors searching for him. Every now and then, scouts would pass by, which made Lu Li more nervous. Did the Sun family increase their efforts? If the Sun family sent out their elite scouts, it would be hard to say if Lu Li could survive with this beast. Those elite scouts were not ordinary soldiers. They had a wealth of experience in scouting. Go and find another beast. Lu Li had used this beast for too many times. If there were other people passing by, they would be suspicious. He continued to fly into the distance. After flying for half an hour, he finally found a decent vicious beast. The beast was not large in size. It was surrounded by a dark fog that could weaken Lu Li's psychic power. Lu Li was overjoyed. If he could capture this beast, he would have a greater chance of survival. Lu Li did the same thing. He dashed into the beast's body. A moment later, the beast began to tumble. In the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Lu Li flew out from the beast's body and took it back to the mountain. Okay, Lu Li's confidence was boosted with this beast. He had been flying for half a month. In a few more days, he could leave the center region and enter the Heaven-Yang region. Whoosh! He flew away in a blur. After a while, a stone on the mountain began to move. It was just a lifeless stone, but now it turned into a living person. Haha, 100 million divine stones. That person sneered and then vanished into the distance in a puff of cyan smoke. Lu Li had no idea that his whereabouts had been discovered by a scout of special race. He was still flying forward. Occasionally, there would be a battleship flying over. He would hide inside the beast and successfully evade them. 10 hours later, another 3 battleships came. Lu Li went into the beast at once. The 3 battleships flew over his head. But this time it was different. The battleships stopped. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Hundreds of warriors flew out from the battleships. 5 streaks of psychic power locked onto the beast down below. A cold voice came out. "Got a massacre. We have known each other for a while. I don't think it is appropriate for you to leave without saying goodbye." Lord 2. Luli felt bitter. He did not know how he was exposed. All he knew was that he was doomed. There were 5 fourth tribulation heaven gods and hundreds of third tribulation heaven gods. There was nowhere for him to run. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.